That morning at 9:47, my phone buzzed with a text from my husband. "Happy anniversary, sweetheart. I'm stuck at work. I can't wait to celebrate tonight. I love you." I was standing in the back office of my restaurant when I looked through the glass window into the dining room, and my heart stopped. He was sitting right there, just 2 tables away from my office. He was kissing a woman with long red hair as if they had done it 100 times before. Before we begin, make sure to hit that like button, share, and subscribe. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Tell me in the comments what part of the world you're watching from. I stood up, ready to march straight over to his table, but before I could make a move, a stranger blocked my path and whispered, "Wait. I know there's something bigger going on. This hasn't even started. I am so grateful you've stuck with me on this journey." If this story touches your heart, please let me know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Your city? Your state? I'd love to connect with you. And a quick note, although this story contains dramatized elements for educational purposes, the lessons on trust and resilience are deeply real and important. On the morning of the 14th of February 2024, a bleak, gray Wednesday in Boston that marked exactly 2 years since Jack Carson and I exchanged vows under the willow trees at the Boston Public Garden, I arrived at Rose's Kitchen at 7:30 a.m., 2 hours before the restaurant officially opened. I was determined to spend the day prepping a special anniversary menu that would remind my husband why he fell in love with me in the first place. The back office smelled of flour and cinnamon from the previous day's batch of homemade apple pies. Through the window that separated my workspace from the dining room, I could see Aunt Carol setting the tables for lunch service, while the morning light filtered through the large bay windows facing Commonwealth Avenue. I had chosen a butter-basted ribeye with Maine lobster tail for that night's celebration. It was Jack's absolute favorite, the very same meal I cooked for him on our first date, 5 years ago. I was halfway through my mise en place when my phone buzzed on the flour-dusted counter. Exactly at 9:47, the screen lit up with my husband's message. "Happy anniversary, sweetheart. I'm stuck at work. I can't wait to celebrate tonight. I love you." And for a fleeting moment, I felt that familiar flutter in my chest, that foolish, hopeful feeling that maybe, after all the tension and distance that had settled between us over the last few months, we could still be okay. I was reaching out to type a reply when something on the other side of the glass caught my eye. Movement in the dining room. A flash of navy blue fabric. A familiar posture that made my heart stumble before my brain could even process what I was looking at. I looked up from the desk, peered through the window separating my office from the main dining floor, and saw him sitting at a corner table near the front window. Less than 30 feet away, maybe 2 tables from where I stood, frozen behind the glass. He was sitting in my restaurant, in the dining room of Rose's Kitchen, the place where I worked every single day. The very place he said he'd be avoiding this morning because he was stuck at work. He was wearing the navy blue blazer I bought him last Christmas, the one with the suede elbow patches that he claimed made him look distinguished. He was leaning back in his chair with the careless confidence of a man who had no idea he was being watched. But he wasn't alone. The woman sitting across from him, a woman with long red hair, falling in shiny waves past her shoulders, was leaning forward, her hand resting intimately on his arm. And then she stood up, walked around the table, wrapped her arms around his neck from behind, and kissed him. It wasn't a friendly peck on the cheek. It wasn't a quick congratulations. It wasn't a casual goodbye. It was a real, deep, slow, intimate kiss. The kind that says, "I know every inch of you." The kind where she tilted her head, and he raised his hand to cup her face. The exact same way he used to touch me before we got married. My phone slipped from my hand and clattered against the wooden desk, the screen still glowing with Jack's text, claiming he was stuck at work. Time seemed to collapse into a single, unbearable instant as I stood paralyzed behind the glass, unable to reconcile the loving message on my screen with the betrayal unfolding just 2 tables away in my own establishment. My mind desperately scrambled for explanations. Maybe it wasn't really Jack. Maybe I was hallucinating from exhaustion. Maybe it was some elaborate surprise. But I knew that blazer. I knew the way he sat with his shoulders slightly slouched when he was relaxed. I knew the way he touched someone's face when he kissed them, because he used to kiss me exactly like that. There was no doubt about what I was seeing. I was about to push open the glass door, separating my office from the dining room. About to march those 30 feet. About to confront them in front of everyone. My hand was already reaching for the brass doorknob, my vision narrowed into a pinpoint of burning, blinding rage. That was when a hand clamped down on my shoulder from behind. Firm, yet gentle, I spun around, my heart hammering against my ribs, and found myself face to face with a woman I hadn't seen in almost 4 years. Detective Sarah Morgan, my old friend from Lincoln High School, was in plain clothes, a black leather jacket with her police badge discreetly clipped to her belt. Her dark eyes were steady, serious, and there was something in her expression, a mix of deep concern and absolute professional authority, that stopped me dead in my tracks. "Wait," she said quietly. Barely a whisper, but laced with absolute certainty. "Don't go out there yet, Zoe. I know there's something bigger going on. This hasn't even started." She kept her hand heavily on my shoulder, anchoring me to the floor, while every muscle in my body screamed at me to sprint into that dining room and burn everything to the ground. I looked at her. My vision was blurring with tears I hadn't even realized were already streaming down my face. My entire body was trembling. "Sarah, what? How?" My voice came out choked and broken. "I was grabbing a coffee at the bar," she said, nodding toward the front counter, where a half-empty ceramic mug sat next to an open copy of the Boston Globe. "I pop in here, sometimes on my days off. I saw him walk in about 20 minutes ago. I saw her kiss him. And then I saw your face through that window. I knew exactly what you were about to do." She squeezed my shoulder a little tighter. "Zoe, if you confront him right now, if you go out there unhinged, unprepared, without a shred of proof you're going to tip him off, you'll lose any chance of figuring out what he's really planning." Her gaze hardened. "Trust me, I've worked enough domestic cases to know that men who are brazen enough to cheat on their wives in their wives' own restaurants are usually capable of much, much worse." "I need to know what's happening," I whispered, my voice cracking. Sarah's expression softened just a fraction. "Then go home," she said firmly. "Go right now, while he thinks you're still stuck here working. Go through his things. His home office, his laptop, his phone records if you can get into them. Find the evidence. Document everything, take pictures, save emails, make copies, and then call me." She pulled a business card from her jacket pocket and pressed it into my shaking hand. "But if you confront him right now in public, emotional and empty-handed, he will deny it all. He will gaslight you. He'll make you look paranoid and unstable. He'll wipe his tracks before you even know what you're looking for. Do not give him that power." I looked through the glass again and saw that Jack was already standing up, pulling his leather wallet from his pocket and tossing a $20 bill onto the table. The red-headed woman had vanished. Sarah was right. If I ran out there right now, I'd get nothing but lies and excuses. But if I stayed quiet, if I went home and tore through his office while he thought I was busy prepping lunch, maybe I'd find the truth. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay." Sarah squeezed my shoulder one last time. "Be smart, Zoe. Be strategic. And call me the second you have something." The moment Jack walked out the front door at 9:52 a.m., I grabbed my winter coat and my keys, my hands shaking uncontrollably. I didn't say goodbye to Aunt Carol. I didn't turn off the stoves. I didn't even take off my apron. I stumbled out the back door into the freezing, drizzly Boston February morning. The drive to our house on Beacon Street usually took 15 minutes in traffic, but I made it in 10. When I pulled into the garage, Jack's car wasn't there. I unlocked the front door and stepped into an oppressive silence where everything looked perfectly normal. The framed wedding photos in the hallway, the throw pillows on the couch, the coffee mug left in the sink. Except nothing was normal anymore. I walked straight to Jack's home office and found the door slightly ajar. Spread across his mahogany desk were papers. Dozens of them. The document right on top was a petition for dissolution of marriage. Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Suffolk County Family Court. Jacob Michael Carson, petitioner. Zoe Mary Miller. Respond. It was completely filled out, bearing his signature in crisp blue ink. The only thing missing was my signature. Beneath the divorce papers was a business valuation report for Rose's Kitchen, by Ba Shuan Mei Yuan. I kept flipping through the pages. An email printout from Marcus Brennan, Director of Acquisitions at Beacon Hill Acquisitions, dated the 3rd of November 2023. Jack, we are ready to close the moment you secure the power of attorney. The $2.8 million offer stands. Just make sure she is vulnerable enough to sign before the deadline. Once the transfer is complete, we'll wire the funds to your offshore account. Another email. Dated February 11, confirming the timeline. The red-haired contact will help with the emotional angle. Is she on board? At the very bottom of the pile, a printed screenshot of text messages. The contact name made my vision tunnel, and the air left my lungs. Mia. My sister. The red-headed woman was my sister. The 14th of February 2024. Wednesday. 2 p.m. Home office. Jack's desk. The house is too quiet. I've been sitting here for almost 3 hours, staring at these divorce papers, the appraisal, the emails from Marcus Brennan, praying that something inside my brain will make sense of this nightmare. Jack hasn't come home. His car isn't in the driveway. He's still out there with her. With Mia. And the longer I sit here, the more I realize I don't know my husband, and I don't know my sister. The printed text conversation with Mia's name is still open on the desk, mocking me. I've read it over and over until the words blur together, hoping I misunderstood, hoping it was some other Mia. Anyone else. But no. The area code is hers. The contact photo, though slightly blurry, is her profile picture from 2 Christmases ago, the ugly sweater party we hosted together. My little sister. The one I helped raise after our mom passed away. The one who used to crawl into my bed when thunderstorms scared her. That Mia. I need to know more. I need to know how deep this rot goes. I stand up from the chair and step around to Jack's side of the desk. His MacBook is sitting there, closed. The silver Apple logo reflects the gloomy gray afternoon light seeping through the blinds. I had never touched his laptop before. He always claimed it was strictly for work, boring spreadsheets, real estate contracts, nothing I'd care about. I believed him. I believed everything he said. My hands are steadier now than they were this morning. That's what sheer rage does to you. It burns away the shock and leaves something ice cold in its place. I open the laptop. The screen wakes up, demanding a password. I type in the code I've seen him punch in 100 times for our Netflix account, our Wi-Fi, our bank. Rose 2022. The year we got married. The year he stood at the altar and promised to love and protect me. The screen unlocks. I'm in. His desktop is meticulously organized. A few folders labeled work, taxes, personal. I click on his Apple Mail. His inbox loads with hundreds of messages. I scroll through, scanning the subject lines, looking for anything that stands out. And then I see it. Final closing timeline, Marcus Brennan, Beacon Hill Acquisitions. I click the email. The thread expands, revealing messages dating back 4 months. The 10th of October 2023. Jack. Confirming our terms. Once you obtain power of attorney over Rose's Kitchen, we can close within 72 hours. The $2,800,000 is liquid and ready for transfer. Ensure she signs voluntarily. We do not want legal complications. The 3rd of November 2023. Update. The deadline has been extended to 90 days. Make sure she is sufficiently vulnerable to sign before the cutoff. Emotional stress, health issues, whatever it takes. The red-haired contact will assist with the emotional angle. Is she on board? The red-haired contact. I scroll faster, my pulse hammering in my ears. The 22nd of January 2024. Confirmed. Your contact, M, has accepted the arrangement. She will keep Zoe distracted and emotionally vulnerable. Once the POA is signed, you transfer the LLC to us. We wire the $2. 8M to your Cayman Islands offshore account #height 47392, and you get a clean slate with M in Seattle. Mia's Table opens Q3 2024. Congratulations, brother. Mia's Table. I stopped breathing. They are going to name a restaurant after her. After my sister. The restaurant Jack promised we would open together someday. The one we dreamed up on our honeymoon in Nantucket. The one I sketched out in the margins of my recipe notebooks. He's giving it to her. He's giving everything to her. I open another folder on the desktop. Personal. Inside, a subfolder labeled M. I double-click it. Photos. Dozens of them. Jack and Mia at Pike Place Market in Seattle. At Cape Cod, the exact same beach where Jack proposed to me 3 years ago. In a hotel bar, his hand on her thigh, his lips on her neck. The timestamps go back 18 months. 18 months. They've been doing this for a year and a half. I feel like I'm drowning. I open the iMessage app on his Mac. The thread with Mia syncs up. Unread messages from weeks ago. I scroll down to the most recent ones. The 13th of February 2024. Yesterday. 1:14 p.m. Mia, tomorrow is your anniversary with her. Are you really going to go through with it? Jack, relax, babe. I'm going to send her a sweet text in the morning. Keep her calm and clueless. By this time next year, all of this will be over. You and me, Mia's Table, and a baby. That's the plan. Mia, I want a baby with you, Jack. Soon. Promise me. Jack, I promise, babe. Soon. I slam the laptop shut so hard the desk shudders. My hands are violently shaking again, but not from shock. It's a profound, tectonic rage, a betrayal so deep I feel like my ribs are cracking open. Mia wants a child with him. My sister wants to carry my husband's child. She wants the exact life I thought I had. And Jack. Jack has been playing us both, promising me a forever while actively stealing my family's legacy, promising her a future while lying about absolutely everything. But there's something else. Something in Marcus Brennan's email that I can't stop thinking about. Make sure she is sufficiently vulnerable to sign before the cutoff. Emotional stress, health issues, whatever it takes. Health issues. I've been sick for months. Ever since November. The chronic nausea, the bone-deep exhaustion, the stomach cramps that hit me in waves every single morning. I thought it was stress. I thought it was burnout from running the restaurant. But what if it wasn't? What if Jack has been doing something to me? My stomach violently churns. I sprint to the master bathroom and barely reach the toilet before I throw up, bile burning the back of my throat. When I finally manage to push myself up, panting, my vision blurred with tears, I see it on the marble vanity. Jack's leather toiletry bag, left unzipped. Inside, wedged between his shaving cream and deodorant, is a small amber glass bottle. I reach for it, my fingers trembling. The white label reads, Ipecac syrup. For inducing vomiting in cases of poisoning. Expiration date, March 2025. The bottle is half empty. I stare at it, my mind racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Ipecac. That's what's been making me sick. Jack has been poisoning me. Not enough to kill me. Just enough to weaken me. Just enough to leave me desperate, exhausted, completely drained, willing to sign away anything just to make the sickness stop. Make sure she is sufficiently weak to sign. Oh my God. I stumble back into the office, the amber bottle still tightly gripped in my hand, and rip open the laptop again. This time, I check his Safari browsing history. And I find it. Searches from 3 months ago. How to induce nausea undetected. Requirements for power of attorney in Massachusetts. Can a business sale be contested if signed under duress? He planned it. He planned all of this. And Mia, my own sister, my own blood, helped him do it. I don't know how long I sit there staring at the screen, watching the pieces snap together like shards of broken glass, cutting deeper with every realization. But when I finally close the laptop, when I stand up, when I walk over to the window and watch the Boston rain sliding down the glass like tears, I am no longer crying. I am no longer shaking. I am cold. Clear. Hyper-focused. Jack and Mia think they are going to take everything from me. But they are dead wrong. Because now I know. And knowledge, as Grandma Rose used to say, is the sharpest knife in the kitchen. I just need to figure out how to use it. But first, I need to know exactly what Jack has been slipping into my coffee every morning. And I need hard proof. The 15th of February 2024. Thursday. 6:30 a.m., our kitchen. I didn't sleep a wink last night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that little amber bottle, the half-empty syrup meant to induce vomiting. I lay rigid in the dark, listening to Jack's rhythmic breathing beside me, wondering exactly how many mornings he had stood in this very kitchen, flashing me a loving smile while he poisoned my coffee. He came home late last night, past 11 p.m. I heard his keys in the lock, his heavy footsteps on the stairs, the familiar creak of the bedroom floorboards as he undressed in the dark. I kept my eyes shut tight, breathing slow, playing asleep. He slid into bed beside me as if absolutely nothing had happened. As if he hadn't just spent the day screwing my sister. As if he weren't actively plotting to ruin my life. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab that glass bottle and smash it across his face. I wanted to demand answers. But I didn't. Because if I want to take him down, I have to be smarter than him. I need evidence. So this morning, when the alarm blares at 6:30, I get up. I follow the routine. I brush my teeth, pull my hair into a messy ponytail, and throw on the same faded Boston Red Sox hoodie I wear every morning. I walk into the kitchen acting like it's just another mundane Thursday. Jack is already there, standing by the marble island in a gray t-shirt and sweatpants. The espresso machine is hissing, blowing out steam. He turns when he hears me and smiles. That same easy, warm smile I fell in love with 5 years ago. "Good morning, sweetheart," he says. As if he wasn't plotting my destruction just yesterday. "Morning," I reply, my voice miraculously steady. I lean against the doorframe, crossing my arms, watching him. He grabs 2 ceramic mugs from the cabinet, the ones we bought at the farmer's market in Cape Cod, painted with little red strawberries. He pours dark roast coffee into both. The steam rises in soft, lazy spirals. Then, he turns toward the stainless steel fridge to grab the almond milk I like. But as he does, his free hand slips smoothly into his sweatpants pocket. Just for a second. Just long enough to pull out something small. An amber glass bottle, the exact same one. My stomach violently knots itself, but I don't move a muscle. I don't let my facial expression shift. I just watch. He unscrews the dropper cap with one hand, tilting it over my specific mug. 3 drops of clear liquid vanish into the dark brew. Then, in one fluid motion, he screws the cap back on, slides the bottle back into his pocket, and turns around as if nothing happened. He grabs the carton of almond milk. The entire sequence takes maybe 5 seconds. If I hadn't been staring directly at his hands, I never would have caught it. He stirs both mugs with a silver spoon. The metal clinks softly against the ceramic. Then he walks over to me, handing me my mug with that sickeningly perfect smile. "Here you go, babe. Extra almond milk, just the way you like it." I take the mug. My fingers brush against his. My hands do not shake. I absolutely refuse to let them. "Thanks," I say. I bring the rim of the mug to my lips, pretending to take a sip. The smell hits me first. Bitter roasted coffee, but hiding underneath it is something else, something distinctly chemical. Something wrong. I let the hot liquid barely touch my bottom lip, then lower the cup. "Perfect," I lie. Jack leans casually against the counter, sipping his own untainted coffee, scrolling through his iPhone. Probably texting Mia. Probably strategizing his next move. I watch him over the rim of my mug, and I feel a fundamental part of my soul freeze over. This man, the man I married, the man I trusted with my life, has been systematically poisoning me every single morning for 3 solid months. I think back to November. That's when the nightmares started. The nausea, the chronic fatigue, the brutal stomach cramps that would hit me out of nowhere, so severe I'd have to sit down on a stool in the middle of a dinner rush, hunched over, praying I wouldn't vomit in front of the paying customers. I thought I had a parasite. I thought it was severe ulcer, stress, or food poisoning that just wouldn't clear up. I went to my primary care doctor twice. They ran blood panels. They found absolutely nothing. Probably just severe anxiety, they told me. Try to reduce your stress levels. And all that time, it was Jack. Slowly, carefully, methodically making me sick. Draining my life force so I'd hand over the restaurant. Are you feeling okay? Jack's voice yanks me back to reality. He's staring at me, his head slightly tilted. Faint concern swimming in his eyes. I'm fine, I say smoothly. Just didn't sleep great. You've been saying that a lot lately, he replies, setting his mug down. He steps closer. He reaches out and gently tucks a stray strand of hair behind my ear. His physical touch makes my skin crawl. Maybe you should take the day off. Let Aunt Carol run the floor. You really need to rest. Rest. So I can become weaker. So I can be easier to manipulate. Maybe, I say, forcing a tired smile. I'll think about it. He kisses my forehead. Soft, gentle, exactly like he did on our wedding day. I love you, Zoe. And for a fraction of a millisecond, I almost believe him. Almost. Then he grabs his car keys and heads for the mudroom. I've got an early site meeting. I'll see you tonight. Okay, I reply. The heavy oak door clicks shut behind him. I stand completely still until I hear the hum of his BMW backing out of the driveway. Then, I move. Fast. I grab a small glass spice jar from the pantry. I pour the entire contents of my tainted coffee into it, getting every last drop. I screw the lid on incredibly tight, wipe the outside down with a paper towel, and shove it deep into my leather tote bag. Then, I dump the remainder of Jack's coffee down the sink, rinse both mugs out with scalding water, and load them into the dishwasher. I stand there for a moment, gripping the edge of the cold granite counter, breathing heavily. Now, my hands are finally shaking. Not out of fear. Out of pure, unadulterated fury. 3 months. He has been doing this to me for a quarter of a year, and I had no idea. I didn't see it, but I see it now. And I am going to prove it. I grab my phone and search for medical toxicology labs near me. Mass General Brigham Lab. 4.7 stars. Opens at 8 a.m. I can be in downtown Boston in 20 minutes. I shoot a quick text to Aunt Carol. Can you open the restaurant today? I have a last-minute doctor's appointment. I'll be in around noon. She replies almost instantly. Of course, honey. Is everything okay? I stare at the glowing text bubble. No. Nothing is okay. But it is going to be. Yes, I type back. Just a routine checkup. I shove the phone into my pocket, grab my tote bag with the poisoned coffee sample inside, and walk out the door. If Jack has been dosing me, I need to know the exact chemical compound he's using. And I need proof. Rock solid, legally binding proof that will hold up in a Massachusetts court of law. Because this isn't just about me anymore. It's about Rose's kitchen. It's about my grandmother's legacy. It's about everything Jack and Mia are trying to steal. And I will burn in hell before I let them take it. It is Friday morning, the 16th of February 2024, shortly after 10:15 a.m. when I pull into the parking lot of the Mass General Brigham Lab on Tremont Street in Boston. I've been sitting in my parked car for 5 full minutes. Engine cut, white-knuckling the steering wheel, staring at the sliding glass doors of the clinic as if they might swallow me alive. Inside my tote bag, wrapped inside a brown paper sack, is the glass jar holding yesterday's coffee. The coffee my husband lovingly brewed for me. The coffee I literally watched him poison. I told Aunt Carol I had to run a quick errand before heading to the restaurant, something about auditing inventory with a seafood vendor across town. She didn't press. Carol never does. She just told me, "Take your time, sweetheart." And I loved her for that. That's why I didn't sleep again last night. I lay next to Jack, listening to his deep, even breathing, genuinely wondering how a human being can sleep so peacefully after doing what he did. After conspiring to destroy me with my own sister. After spending 90 days meticulously dropping poison into my morning routine. This morning, he made coffee again. The exact same charade. The same perfect smile, the same gentle kiss on the forehead before heading out for a meeting. I didn't drink a drop. I poured it straight down the drain the second his taillights vanished. And for the first time in months, at 9 a.m., I felt zero nausea. No stomach cramps, no vertigo, nothing. That was when I knew for an absolute fact. It's the coffee. It was always the coffee. I grab my bag, take a deep, stabilizing breath, and pop the car door open. It's freezing outside, a damp, miserable Boston winter morning. The kind of cold that sinks right into your bones. I march across the asphalt, step through the automatic doors, and enter the waiting room. It is aggressively clean and sterile. The sharp scent of medical-grade disinfectant mixed with cheap lavender air freshener makes my empty stomach roll. A receptionist behind a plexiglass window looks up from her dual monitors and offers a polite smile. "Good morning. How can I help you today?" "I need to speak to someone about a private toxicology screening," I say, keeping my voice remarkably level. "It's for a beverage sample." Her polite smile falters just a fraction. "Just one moment, please." She picks up her desk phone, murmurs something too low for me to catch, and then nods. "Dr. Bennett will see you shortly. Please have a seat." I drop into one of the stiff plastic chairs near the window. I clutch my tote bag tightly against my lap. The glass jar inside feels 10 times heavier than it actually is. All around me, ordinary patients are waiting in silence. An older gentleman leaning on a cane, a college-aged girl furiously texting on her phone, a tired mother bouncing a fussy toddler. Normal people, living normal lives. I briefly wonder if anyone else in this room is here because their spouse is actively trying to kill them. Probably not. After what feels like a geological era, though the clock says it's only been 10 minutes, a heavy wooden door swings open. A woman in a crisp white lab coat steps out. She looks to be in her early 40s. Dark hair pulled back into a no-nonsense bun, warm brown eyes behind thin wire-rimmed glasses. "Zoe Miller?" She calls out. I stand up immediately. "That's me. I'm Dr. Rachel Bennett," she says, extending her hand. Her grip is firm, reassuring, and deeply professional. "Come on back, please." I follow her down a narrow, brightly lit corridor into a small consultation room. She gestures to a vinyl chair, and I sit down. She closes the door firmly until it clicks, then sits across from me, folding her hands neatly on her desk. "All right," she says in a soft, measured tone. "The front desk mentioned you're looking for a toxicology workup on a beverage. Can you walk me through what's going on?" I reach into my tote bag, pull out the glass jar, and set it dead center on her desk. The dark coffee inside has developed a thin, oily film on the surface. It looks murky. Wrong. "I need to know if there is something in this," I say. Something that absolutely shouldn't be there. Poison, pharmaceuticals, heavy chemicals, whatever it is. Dr. Bennett picks up the glass jar, holds it up to the fluorescent light, and examines it critically. Where exactly did this sample come from? I hesitate for a fraction of a second. My husband prepared it for me yesterday morning. Her eyes snap away from the jar and lock onto mine. A heavy, loaded silence drops over the room. She is instantly alarmed. "Why?" "Because I have been violently ill," I reply, the words spilling out of me faster now. "For 3 straight months." Nausea, vomiting, severe exhaustion, abdominal cramps. My primary care doctor ran full blood panels. They found nothing. But yesterday I didn't drink the coffee he made for me. And today, I feel totally fine. No symptoms. Nothing. Dr. Bennett carefully sets the jar back down. Her expression remains highly professional, but I can see the sharp spike of concern behind her glasses. Zoe, I am legally obligated to ask you this. Do you feel safe going back to your home? The question hangs suspended in the sterile air between us. Not anymore, I admit flatly. But I cannot do a single thing until I have hard proof. Legally admissible proof. That is exactly why I'm here. She nods slowly, absorbing the gravity of it. I understand. We can run a comprehensive mass spectrometry and toxicology panel on this sample. It will screen for common poisons, prescription medications, over-the-counter drugs, and various industrial chemicals. How long will that take? 72 hours, she replies. We will call you the absolute second the results hit the system. Are you planning to use this in a legal proceeding? Yes. Will it hold up in court? Yes. Our facility is fully certified. The chain of custody and results are legally valid in a court of law. She pauses, leaning forward slightly. But Zoe, if you are in immediate physical danger... No, I interrupt quickly. Not yet. He has no idea that I know. And I need to keep it exactly that way until I have everything I need to completely ruin him. Dr. Bennett studies my face for a long, quiet moment. Then, she gives a curt nod. All right. The comprehensive panel is $1,750. We can run it through your health insurance, but... No, I say, already pulling out my wallet. I dig past my joint credit cards and find an old debit card, an account my mother set up for me years ago, the one I kept tucked away for absolute emergencies. I will pay out of pocket with this. Do not put a single trace of this through my insurance. He monitors our claims. She doesn't ask why. She simply takes the card, swipes it on her terminal, prints the receipt, and hands it back to me. We will call you on Monday afternoon, she says firmly. If you need anything before then, if you feel unsafe for even a second, call 911 or call me. She slides her personal business card across the desk. I tuck it into my bag next to the receipt. Thank you, I say, and I mean it from the bottom of my soul. She walks me back out to the waiting room, resting a gentle hand on my shoulder. Watch your back, Zoe. I walk out of the clinic and get back into my car. The biting Boston wind whips against my face. I sit behind the steering wheel for a long moment, breathing hard. My hands are shaking again. The dominoes are officially falling. 72 hours. 3 days. By Monday, I will know exactly what Jack has been lacing my coffee with. And once I have that scientific proof, I can map out my counterattack. I turn the ignition and pull out of the parking lot, heading toward Rose's kitchen. As I merge onto the highway, a chilling realization hits me. Today, I feel better. My mind is sharp. I feel lucid. My stomach isn't doing flips. My head isn't pounding. For the first time since Thanksgiving, I feel like myself again. And that terrifies me almost as much as the poison itself. Because it means Jack was actually winning. He was slowly, systematically destroying me, and I was entirely blind to it. But I'm not blind anymore. 72 hours. Just 3 more days. I will know exactly how my husband has been poisoning me, and then I will know exactly what I have to do to stop him. It is Monday afternoon, the 19th of February 2024. I am standing in the back kitchen of Rose's kitchen, aggressively chopping vegetables for the dinner prep. My phone vibrates violently in my apron pocket. I wipe my hands on a kitchen towel and pull it out. Unknown number. Boston area code. My chest tightens like a vice. I step into the back office, close the door, and answer. Hello? Zoe. It's Dr. Rachel Bennett from the Mass General Brigham Lab. Her voice is remarkably calm, but there is an undeniable undercurrent of urgency, a sharp, clinical concern. Are you able to come down to the clinic right now? I have your lab results back, and I firmly believe we need to discuss these findings in person. My stomach drops into my shoes. Did you find something? Yes, she says quietly. And I think you're going to want to look at this as soon as possible. I tell Aunt Carol I have to run out for an hour. I grab my winter coat and my car keys, and I am behind the wheel before my brain can even process the panic. The drive back to the lab takes 12 minutes, but it feels like a 12-hour nightmare. My hands grip the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turn white, but my mind is racing at 1,000 miles an hour. They found something. I have proof. When I burst into the clinic parking lot, my heart is hammering so aggressively, I can feel it in my throat. Dr. Bennett is waiting for me in the exact same consultation room. She stands up the second I walk in, gestures to the chair, and clicks the door shut behind me. Sitting dead center on her desk, directly between us, is a thick manila folder. She sits down, flips the folder open, and slides a printed lab report across the laminate wood. Zoe. She begins, her voice painfully gentle. The finalized results came through our system this morning. I wanted to call you immediately, but I needed our senior toxicologist to verify the data, because this is incredibly serious. I stared down at the report. The page is an absolute blur of medical jargon, complex chemical compounds, and parts per million concentrations. But one specific line near the very top is brightly highlighted in neon yellow marker. Syrup of ipecac. Emetine. Cephaline alkaloids. Detected. Concentration. 15 milliliters per 250 milliliters sample volume. My vision tunnels for a split second. I blink hard, forcing my eyes to focus on the black ink. Ipecac, I whisper. That's the stuff that makes you throw up, right? Yes, Dr. Bennett says. It is an emetic syrup. It used to be kept in household medicine cabinets decades ago to induce violent vomiting in cases of accidental poisoning. The FDA stopped recommending it because it can be highly dangerous if misused. She pauses, choosing her next words carefully. At this specific concentration, roughly a tablespoon dropped into a standard mug of coffee, it wouldn't kill you outright. But it would induce severe chronic nausea, aggressive vomiting, profound fatigue, abdominal cramping, and generalized physical weakness over an extended period. I look up at her. Over how long? If administered daily over several months, the cumulative effects are devastating, she replies. Severe dehydration. Dangerous electrolyte imbalances, muscle deterioration. It can even cause permanent damage to your gastrointestinal lining and heart muscle. She takes a deep breath. Zoe. Someone has been intentionally and methodically poisoning you. And based on what you told me Friday, this has been happening for at least 3 months. The sterile walls of the room seem to tilt. I grip the edge of her desk to ground myself. 3 months. November. That's when it all started. The mornings I couldn't get out of bed. The times I collapsed in the restaurant bathroom. I thought I was dying of some mystery illness. I thought it was stress. I internalized it. I blamed myself for being weak. But it was Jack. Every single morning, for 90 straight days, he smiled at me, kissed my cheek, handed me a mug of coffee, and literally poisoned me. Zoe, Dr. Bennett says, leaning across the desk, her voice snapping with absolute authority. You need to walk into a police precinct right now. This is a severe felony. Whoever is doing this to you is committing aggravated assault, quite possibly attempted homicide, depending on a prosecutor's angle. You need legal protection. I shake my head slowly. I can't. Why the hell not? Because I need more than a piece of paper, I say. Tapping the lab report. I need more evidence. I need to know exactly what his endgame is. If I go to the Boston PD right now, he will hire an expensive lawyer and deny everything. He'll tell them I'm hysterical. He'll say I spiked my own coffee to frame him because we're getting a divorce. He is highly intelligent, he has corporate money, and he is actively plotting to steal my entire livelihood. Dr. Bennett's face hardens into a mask of grim concern. Zoe, if he is actively poisoning you, his behavior will escalate. Your life is in danger. I know, I reply, keeping my voice dangerously low. But I haven't taken a sip of his coffee in 4 days. He has no idea that I'm onto him, and I need to keep him completely in the dark until I have built a bulletproof case to ruin him permanently. She stares at me for a long, tense minute. Then, she slowly nods. Okay, but you have to promise me something. If you feel threatened for even a second, if his routine changes, you call 911 immediately. Or, you call me. She flips over a business card and writes a number on the back. This is my personal cell, 24/7. I take the card, carefully fold the toxicology report, and secure both inside my tote bag. Thank you, Dr. Bennett, for everything. She walks me to the exit, resting her hand on my shoulder. Please be careful, Zoe. I walk back to my car. The manila folder feels like it weighs 50 pounds in my bag. Hard. Scientific proof of what Jack has done to me. Proof that he has been systematically dismantling my health, breaking me down, turning me into a weak, vulnerable shell, so I would sign over Rose's Kitchen without putting up a fight. Make sure she is sufficiently vulnerable to sign. That's exactly what Marcus Brennan's email demanded. And Jack executed the order perfectly. He poisoned me. He looked me dead in the eyes every morning and poisoned me. I sit in the driver's seat, my hands gripping the cold leather of the steering wheel, staring blankly at the brick wall of the clinic. The sheer panic and shock I've been carrying for the last 5 days violently crystallizes into something else entirely. Something sharp, cold, and utterly lethal. Jack thinks he has the upper hand. He thinks he successfully broke me. But he is so incredibly wrong. Because now I hold the cards. I have the lab-certified, legally documented proof, and that changes the entire game. I start the engine and pull out onto the busy Boston streets. My mind is already 10 steps ahead. Jack doesn't just want Rose's Kitchen, he wants me gone. Erased. And Mia, the sister I practically raised, is eagerly helping him do it. But they both made one fatal miscalculation. They completely underestimated me. They assumed I would be too sick, too exhausted, too emotionally shattered to fight back. They didn't account for me finding that amber bottle. They didn't account for me getting the coffee tested. And they definitely didn't account for me having a nuclear option. Because I do. I always have. My grandmother made absolutely sure of that. Grandma Rose didn't just leave me the deed to the restaurant. She left me a failsafe. A failsafe that Jack, Mia, and Marcus Brennan know absolutely nothing about. I haven't touched it in 5 years. Not since the day her will was read. But right now feels like the perfect time to arm it. Jack tried to weaken me. He tried to destroy me. But he has no idea that I just found my weapon. And by the time he finally realizes what is happening, it will be far too late. It is Tuesday night, the 20th of February 2024. A little past 7 p.m., I am standing in the doorway of Grandma Rose's old bedroom in my house. The room that was hers before she passed away 5 years ago. The room I have barely touched since. The house is dead silent. Jack texted me an hour ago claiming he was grinding late at the office, which actually means he's at a hotel downtown with Mia. I honestly don't even care anymore. Let him keep digging his own grave. I came into this room tonight because I desperately needed to be somewhere that felt safe. A place that felt like her. The room still holds the incredibly faint, powdery scent of her perfume. Chanel No. 5, the only true luxury she ever allowed herself. The walls are still lined with vintage framed photographs. Rose's Kitchen in its early days. Back when it was just a tiny diner in the North End. My grandmother in her apron, flour dusted across her cheeks, smiling radiantly at the camera. Me, as a little girl, standing on a wooden step stool beside her, learning how to knead bread dough. I miss her. God, I miss her so much. She would know exactly how to handle this. She always did. I walk over to the heavy oak dresser in the corner, the one she haggled for at a yard sale in 1979 and lovingly restored herself. Sitting right on top, in a place of absolute honor, is her personal recipe book. Not the mass-printed cookbook we sell at the front register of the restaurant. This is different. Older. Sacred. It's a thick, leather-bound journal, over 45 years old. The dark brown cover is butter soft, worn down by decades of greasy thumbs and constant use. Every single recipe my grandmother perfected is in here, written out in her elegant, slanting cursive: New England clam chowder, Boston baked beans, Yankee pot roast. I have gently flipped through this book hundreds of times since she died, but I've never actually been able to bring myself to cook directly from it. It always felt like losing her all over again. But tonight, I pick it up. I don't know exactly why. Maybe because I need to physically feel her presence. Maybe because I need a tangible reminder that I come from a bloodline of incredibly strong women. I lift it carefully, holding it with both hands, and sit down on the edge of her quilt-covered bed. The leather binding is severely cracked along the spine, the stitching fraying at the edges. As I gently turn the book over in my hands, a loose corner of the back cover catches on the sleeve of my sweater, and I hear the sickening sound of old paper tearing. My heart drops. No, no, no. I look closer. The leather lining on the inside back cover has peeled away slightly. But it hasn't revealed cardboard underneath. It reveals paper. I lay the heavy book flat across my lap and carefully, delicately peel back the damaged leather flap. Hidden underneath, tucked neatly into a concealed pocket between the cover and the spine, are 3 folded documents. My hands are visibly shaking as I slide them out. The first is a handwritten letter in faded blue ink. My grandmother's unmistakable handwriting. I unfold it delicately, smoothing out the deep creases, and begin to read. My dearest granddaughter, Zoe, if you are reading this letter, it means I am no longer with you. And it means someone has profoundly betrayed you. I always knew deep in my bones that this day might come. Your grandfather and I built Rose's kitchen with our bare hands, our sweat, and our relentless love. But we also built it with immense sacrifice. And I know the brutal truth of this world: sacrifice often awakens envy, blind ambition, and danger in others. That is exactly why I put a plan in place. A fail-safe to protect you, even when I am no longer physically here to do it myself. There is a trust fund, my sweet girl. $150,000. It is held at Bank of America, entirely in my name, managed strictly by my personal attorney, Benjamin Harley. He has been my most trusted friend for 40 years. I trust him with my life, and I trust him with yours. This fund was established with one absolute, non-negotiable condition. It can only be unlocked and utilized if there is documented proof that someone is actively trying to steal Rose's kitchen from you. If you have found this letter, I have to assume you already have that proof in your hands. Call Benjamin immediately. Show him exactly what you have uncovered. He knows what to do. He will help you activate the trust. Use every cent of that money to protect yourself. To protect our restaurant. To fight back with everything you have. This is your weapon, Zoe. Wield it wisely, and show them no mercy. I love you, my girl. Always and forever. Grandma Rose. The cursive words violently blur in front of my eyes. I am sobbing. The tears are falling fast, hot and heavy against my cheeks, and I make zero effort to stop them. She knew. She somehow knew that this exact nightmare could happen. She knew I might need saving, and she made damn sure I had a lifeline. Even from beyond the grave, she is still fiercely protecting me. I wipe my eyes with the back of my hand and unfold the second piece of paper. It's an official bank certificate from Bank of America. Dated January 2014. The Rose Miller Family Trust. Principal amount: $150,000. The third piece of paper is a crisp, embossed business card. Benjamin Harley, Esquire Harley and Associates. A downtown Boston address and a direct phone number. I sit there on the edge of the bed for a very long time. The handwritten letter gripped in one hand, the bank certificate in the other. The leather book resting open on my lap. $150,000. More than enough liquid cash to hire the most ruthless, aggressive litigation lawyers in Boston. More than enough to drag Jack Carson and Marcus Brennan through the mud in federal court. More than enough to completely safeguard Rose's kitchen and every single thing my grandmother sacrificed her life to build. But far more than the money, it is undeniable proof that she deeply believed in me. Proof that she trusted me to carry her legacy forward. Proof that she knew, when the time came, I would stand my ground and fight. I carefully fold the letter and tuck it back inside the leather book, along with the bank certificate and the attorney's card. I stand up, walk over to the bedroom window, and stare down at the quiet street below. The vintage street lamps flicker on, casting long, distorted shadows across the wet pavement. Somewhere out there in this city, Jack is tangled up with Mia. He is lying in a hotel bed, smugly thinking he has already won. He thinks I am too physically weak, too emotionally broken, too paralyzed by fear to ever stop his master plan. But he is wrong. My grandmother just handed me a loaded gun. Now, I just have to learn how to pull the trigger. First thing tomorrow morning, I am calling Benjamin Harley. I will drop the toxicology report, the printed emails, and the divorce papers right on his desk. I will unlock that trust fund. And I will start the war. It is Wednesday afternoon, the 21st of February 2024, just a few minutes past 3 p.m. when I push through the heavy glass doors of Harley & Associates on State Street, right in the heart of Boston's financial district. The building is historic exposed brick, towering ceilings, elegant crown molding. It's the kind of high-end law firm that perpetually smells of lemon polish, rich mahogany, and expensive leather. A silver-haired receptionist looks up from her pristine desk and offers a polite smile. "You must be Zoe Miller. Mr. Harley is expecting you." She escorts me down a long, narrow hallway lined with framed Ivy League degrees and stark black and white photographs of old Boston. My heart is thumping wildly against my ribs. I called the office this morning, my voice shaking so badly I could barely form a sentence. My name is Zoe Miller. My grandmother was Rose Miller. I need an emergency meeting with Benjamin Harley today. Within 30 seconds, they squeezed me in for a 3:00 p.m. slot. And now I am here, white-knuckling my leather tote bag. Inside is Grandma Rose's letter, the hospital talks report, the printed emails, and the unsigned divorce papers all meticulously organized inside a thick manila envelope. The receptionist stops in front of a solid oak door adorned with a polished brass plaque, Benjamin Harley, Senior Partner. She knocks once and pushes it open. Zoe Miller is here. Send her in, a voice calls out from inside. Warm, yet dripping with authority. I step into the expansive office, and he is already standing up, walking around his massive desk to greet me. Benjamin Harley looks exactly like I pictured a seasoned Boston lawyer would. Mid-60s, thick silver hair combed neatly back, thin gold wire glasses, wearing a meticulously tailored charcoal suit that looks expensive but subtly worn in. He extends a hand. Zoe, he says. And there is something in the exact cadence of how he says my name as if he's known me my entire life that immediately tightens my throat. Please, have a seat. I sink into one of the plush leather wingback chairs. He sits directly across from me, clasping his hands together on the desk. For a long, quiet moment, he just studies my face. His expression is incredibly soft, tinged with a deep, nostalgic sadness. You look so much like her, he says quietly. Like Rose. You have the exact same eyes. The exact same fire in them. I blink hard, desperately trying to swallow the lump in my throat. You knew her well? For 40 years, he replies fondly. She walked into my office back in 1984 when she was trying to secure the commercial lease for Rose's kitchen. We became fast friends. She was, without a doubt, one of the fiercest, most resilient women I have ever had the privilege of knowing. She talked about you constantly. She was immensely proud of the woman you were becoming. My chest physically aches. Did she talk to you about the trust fund? Yes, he says, his demeanor instantly shifting from nostalgic friend to sharp-minded attorney. 10 years ago, she came to me and established it, using 30 years of her hard-earned savings. 15万美元. She made me swear on my life that I would never breathe a word of it to anyone, not even to you, unless someone actively tried to strip the restaurant away from you. I nod slowly. Someone is trying. I reach into my tote bag, pull out the thick manila envelope, and place it dead center on his desk. Benjamin opens it methodically. He pulls out each document one by one. First, he reads my grandmother's letter. He reads it agonizingly slow. I watch a muscle feather in his jaw. Then, he picks up the toxicology report. His eyes widen significantly when he sees the highlighted word, ipecac. Next, he reviews the filed divorce papers bearing Jack's signature. Finally, he reads the printed email chains from Marcus Brennan. He reads every single line. His face grows darker and more thunderous with every page he turns. When he finally finishes, he aligns the papers perfectly on his desk and looks up at me. Zoe, he says, his voice vibrating with barely contained, professional fury. This is not just corporate fraud. This is attempted homicide. I know, I reply steadily. That is exactly why I'm here. I need your help. Benjamin leans forward, his eyes locking onto mine. You have me. And you have Rose. Even from the grave, she knew the sharks would eventually circle you. That is exactly why she structured the trust with that specific trigger clause. It can only be activated if there is undeniable proof of a hostile takeover of Rose's kitchen. He taps his index finger hard against the stack of emails. And this? This is clear, documented, irrefutable proof. A massive, overwhelming wave of relief crashes over me. So, I can access the money? Yes, he replies firmly. But we have to move aggressively. I am going to draft and file an emergency ex parte petition with the Suffolk County Family Court this very afternoon. He pauses, mentally mapping out the legal war. We are going to request 3 specific things. First, an emergency temporary restraining order to immediately freeze all marital assets, which absolutely includes Rose's kitchen. That legally prevents Jack from selling, transferring, or leveraging the property. Second, the immediate unsealing and activation of the trust fund, giving you full financial autonomy. He takes a slow breath. And third, an emergency injunction requesting a formal criminal investigation into Jacob Carson's activities. Forgery, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and aggravated assault via poisoning. My heart thumps violently. How long will a judge take to rule on that? For an emergency petition of this magnitude, backed by certified lab results and corporate emails? A judge will rule within 48 hours. The second the judge signs off, Jack is legally paralyzed from touching the restaurant, and you will have full, unrestricted access to the $150,000. I exhale a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. And what about the poisoning? Benjamin's expression turns ice cold. That shifts into criminal territory. The civil court can flag it, but you are going to need to work directly with the police to build a criminal indictment. Do you have a reliable contact inside the Boston PD? I immediately think of Sarah. Detective Sarah Morgan. I haven't called her back since the restaurant, but it is definitely time. Yes, I reply. I do. Benjamin nods approvingly. Good. Because the absolute second I file these injunctions and freeze his assets, Jack is going to know his plan has been compromised. He is going to panic. And cornered men who panic do incredibly dangerous things. You need someone with a badge watching your back. I'll call her today. He stands up. I follow suit. He walks around the desk and places a heavy, reassuring hand on my shoulder, mirroring my grandmother's exact gesture. Rose loved you more than life itself, Zoe. She would be terrifyingly proud of you right now. My eyes well up with hot tears, and this time, I let them fall. I miss her so much. I know, he says softly. But she is still here. She's in you. She's in Rose's kitchen. And she is in the absolute hell you are about to rain down on these men. I walk out of his office an hour later, a freshly printed copy of the emergency petition safely tucked in my bag, and an initial court hearing scheduled for Friday morning, February 23. As I walk to my car, the late afternoon Boston sun finally breaking through the heavy gray clouds, I feel an emotion I haven't experienced in months. Hope. Grandma Rose protected me, even after she was gone. She handed me the exact weapon I needed. And now, with Benjamin Harley backing me, I am going to pull the trigger. But Jack is still out there. He is still plotting. He is still lethal. I need a professional to help me trap him, someone who can guarantee he rots in a cell for what he did to me. I pull out my iPhone, scrolling through my contacts until I hit her name. Detective Sarah Morgan. We haven't spoken in months before that day at the restaurant, but if there is anyone on earth who can help me nail a criminal, it's her. I press call. It is Saturday morning, February 24, shortly after 11 a.m. When I slide into a worn leather booth at the back of a Tat Bakery in downtown Boston, I order a black coffee, no sugar, no milk. It has been exactly 10 days since Detective Sarah Morgan grabbed my shoulder and stopped me from confronting Jack and Mia in my own dining room. And now I am sitting here waiting for her, because I finally have the hard evidence she told me to get. Yesterday morning, the Suffolk County judge officially approved Benjamin Harley's emergency petition. Jack is legally barred from touching Rose's kitchen. The asset freeze is fully active, and Grandma Rose's trust fund has been released to me. But a civil restraining order isn't enough. I need Jack Carson in a federal penitentiary. That's why I called Sarah last night. Sarah walks through the glass door at 11:15. She's wearing dark denim, a black leather jacket, her gold shield clipped openly to her belt. She weaves through the crowded bakery with that same hyper-alert, predatory posture. She spots me immediately and slides into the booth across from me. "Zoe," she says quietly, skipping the pleasantries. "How are you holding up?" I look her dead in the eye. "I am holding up because you stopped me that day. If you hadn't been standing there, I would have blown everything." "Thank you, Sarah." She gives a curt nod. "Glad I was there." "So, what exactly did you find?" I reach into my bag, pull out the thick manila envelope, and slide it across the cafe table. I found a hell of a lot more than just an affair. Jack has been systematically poisoning me for 3 months. He is actively conspiring with a corporate acquisitions director named Marcus Brennan to steal my restaurant via wire fraud and a forged power of attorney. And I think he's planning something much, much worse. Sarah's entire demeanor shifts. She goes from concerned friend to apex predator. She rips open the envelope, her eyes widen drastically when she scans the Providence Lab toxicology report. Her jaw tightens until the muscle jumps as she reads the printed emails between Jack and Marcus. Her face grows darker with every single page. "Jesus Christ," she mutters under her breath. "How long has he been dosing you?" 3 months. November to February. Every single morning, he would make me an almond milk latte and lace it with ipecac. I thought I was dying. The doctors couldn't find a damn thing. And this entire time, it was my husband deliberately breaking my body down so I wouldn't have the strength to fight back when he stole the deed. Sarah flips to the email chains, reading the exact sentences that are permanently burned into my brain. Make sure she is sufficiently vulnerable to sign before the cutoff. The ipecac is working. She's losing weight and has zero energy. Once the POA is signed, we wire the $2.08 to your offshore account. She drops the papers onto the table and looks up at me, pure cop fury in her eyes. "Zoe, this is attempted homicide. Poisoning someone to coerce a legal signature is, at the absolute bare minimum, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Given the timeline, a DA will easily bump this to attempted murder." She taps the emails aggressively. And Marcus Brennan goes down right next to him. Racketeering. Corporate conspiracy. Extortion. This is decades in federal prison. "There's more," I say. I pull out the blank divorce papers, the $1.8 million business valuation, and the glossy photographs my newly hired private investigator took of Jack and Mia sneaking into downtown hotels. Sarah reviews everything with cold, methodical precision. She jots notes in a small spiral pad. When she finally finishes, she exhales a long, slow breath. This is quite literally one of the most thoroughly documented cases of domestic abuse and corporate fraud I have seen in 10 years on the force. You have talk screens, verified emails, offshore financial chatter, signed documents, photos. She looks up at me. Do you want me to send a squad car to arrest him right now? I shake my head. Benjamin says the evidence is incredibly strong, but it's technically still circumstantial. The lab report proves there was ipecac in my coffee, not that Jack specifically put it there. The emails show malicious intent, not direct physical execution. If you arrest him today, a high-priced defense attorney will scream reasonable doubt and drag this out for years. I lean across the table. I need direct, irrefutable proof. I need a video of Jack actively poisoning my drink. I need audio of him admitting to the fraud. Or I need to catch him in the act of committing another felony. Something a jury can't misinterpret. Sarah nods slowly, a predatory smile tugging at her lips. Then we lay a trap. Go buy hidden cameras today, install them in your house. Specifically, in the kitchen, where he preps the food, and in his home office. Massachusetts is a two-party consent state for audio, but you are legally allowed to install security cameras inside your own marital home without his knowledge for security purposes. Get him on video. Make him talk. Ask him leading questions. Make him feel incredibly safe and overconfident. She looks down at the photos. And Marcus Brennan? Your sister? I clench my jaw. Follow them. Document every single meeting. If I can get all three of them in a room together discussing the endgame, that seals the conspiracy charge. Sarah reaches across the table and grips my hand hard. We are going to nail him to the wall, Zoe. I promise you that. But you have to be smart, and you have to be patient. If Jack realizes you know before we have the kill shot, he will escalate. He already poisoned you. If he panics, he might try something fatal. She pulls out her card, taps the handwritten number on the back. If anything feels off, call 911 immediately, then call me. I don't care if it's 3 a.m. I nod. Understood. Good. She stands up, sliding the thick envelope into her leather bag. I am going to quietly pull Marcus Brennan's financials. I'll run his offshore connections to Jack. You go buy those cameras, wire your house, and document his every move. We are building a federal case. And when we are done, Jacob Carson is going to spend the rest of his natural life in a concrete box. I watch her walk out of the bakery, and for the first time since my entire life collapsed, I feel something akin to victory. It is Wednesday night, February 28. 15 minutes before 10 p.m. I am sitting cross-legged on my bed, the laptop glowing in the dark, my AirPods securely in my ears, reviewing the footage from the hidden camera I installed 4 days ago. The camera is microscopic, smaller than a tube of lipstick, ingeniously hidden inside a digital picture frame sitting right on Jack's office desk. It's a photo from our wedding day. We are smiling like we actually believed in forever. I bought the rig online for $200 with Grandma Rose's trust money. Overnight shipping. It records Ultra HD video and crisp audio, uploading everything directly to an encrypted cloud server Jack doesn't even know exists. Sarah told me to document everything. And that is exactly what I am doing. I've been scrubbing through the footage every night after Jack falls asleep in the guest room. I told him I had a highly contagious stomach bug. Fast-forwarding through hours of him typing emails, scrolling Instagram, taking mundane calls. 90% of it is useless. But tonight, I hit the jackpot. The digital timestamp reads February 27, 2:14 p.m. Yesterday. I was at Rose's kitchen prepping for the dinner rush. Jack is sitting alone in his home office, leaning back in his leather chair, holding his iPhone to his ear. I crank the volume up. His voice comes through crystal clear. Rick. It's Jack Carson. We met last month at that developer's mixer down in the seaport. A beat of silence. A gruff, male voice on the other end, muffled but fully audible through the AirPods. Yeah, I remember. What do you need? I need you to handle a specific job for me, Jack says, casually swiveling in his chair. At a restaurant. Rose's Kitchen. 428 Commonwealth Avenue. All right. What kind of job? Gas line inspection, Jack replies smoothly. But I need you to do something very specific while you're down there. I need you to loosen one of the primary intake valves. Not enough to blow the place immediately, just enough to create a slow, undetectable leak. Absolute dead silence on the other end. A long, heavy pause. Are you out of your mind? I am completely serious, Jack says, his voice dropping an octave. And I will pay you $15,000 in untraceable cash. No invoices, no paper trail. Just you, me, and the job. Another long pause. If there's a gas leak in a commercial kitchen, if someone is inside when an oven sparks, that is exactly the point, Rick, Jack interrupts. His voice is chillingly cold. Flat. As if he's ordering a pizza. I need you to do it the night of October 28th, around 8 p.m. I will make absolutely sure she is alone in the kitchen after closing. The blood in my veins turns to ice. She? Rick asks. Who is she? My wife, Jack says. And I need to make sure she doesn't walk out of that building. I slam the spacebar, pausing the video. My hands are shaking so violently I nearly drop the MacBook off the bed. I hit the left arrow key, rewinding 10 seconds. I play it again. I need to make sure she doesn't walk out of that building. I listen to it a third time. A fourth. Every single time, the words hit me like a sledgehammer to the sternum. Jack isn't just plotting to steal Rose's kitchen. He is actively plotting to murder me. He is hiring a hitman to stage a catastrophic gas explosion and blow my restaurant to pieces with me trapped inside. I force myself to hit play again. I force myself to watch the screen. Rick's voice comes back, lower now. Nervous. I don't know, man. This is major felony territory. If somebody dies, the feds will be all over it. They'll trace it back to you. Nobody is going to trace a damn thing, Jack snaps confidently. It will look like a tragic accident. It's a 100-year-old brick building with faulty, outdated gas lines. The Boston Fire Marshal will rule it an accidental combustion. My wife will be gone. I will inherit the LLC as her grieving widower, collect the insurance payout, and sell the ashes to a developer the next morning. Clean. Simple. He pauses. And you walk away with 15 grand in your pocket. I need time to think about it, Rick finally mutters. You have until March 15th, Jack replies. After that, I find someone else, and you forget we ever had this conversation. Call me. The call disconnects. Jack drops his phone onto the desk, stretches his arms over his head, and goes right back to typing on his laptop as if he didn't just casually solicit the brutal murder of his wife. I close the laptop. I sit paralyzed in the dark bedroom, staring blankly at the wall. October 28. 8 months from now, 8 months, Jack is willing to spend the next 8 months living under the same roof as me. Eating dinner with me. Kissing me. Pretending to love me. All while meticulously counting down the days until he incinerates me. I think I am going to be sick again. I scramble out of bed, stumble into the master bathroom, and splash freezing cold water on my face. When I look up into the vanity mirror, the woman staring back at me looks like a total stranger. Pale, heavy bags under her eyes, absolutely terrified. But lurking beneath the sheer terror is something far more potent. Rage. A blinding, biblical rage. Jack poisoned me for 3 months. He forged legal documents. He conspired with Marcus Brennan to steal my grandmother's legacy. He repeatedly slept with my own sister in cheap hotels. And now, he wants to murder me. He wants to literally erase me from the earth, so he can take my money and start a new life with Mia. I grip the edges of the porcelain sink so hard my fingers ache. I stare at my reflection, breathing heavily. No. I am not going to be a victim in a true crime podcast. I am not going to let him win. I march back into the bedroom and rip open the laptop. I immediately export the video file. I create 3 separate backup copies. One goes onto a secure folder on my phone. One goes onto an encrypted USB drive that I hide inside the lining of my winter coat. The third is uploaded to a dummy email account that Jack couldn't find with a search warrant. Then, I open iMessage. I text Sarah. I have the kill shot. Can you meet me tomorrow morning? It is a matter of life and death. She replies within 30 seconds. My precinct office. 7 a.m. What did he do? I hesitate, staring at the keyboard. Then I type. Jack just hired a hitman to blow up my restaurant with me inside. I have him on 4K video and audio. The 3 gray typing bubbles appear immediately. Then, Jesus Christ, Zoe. Are you safe right now? Yes. He's asleep in the guest room. Lock your bedroom door. Do not engage with him. I will see you at 7 a.m. I manually lock the heavy bedroom door. I sit cross-legged on the mattress, laptop open, and watch the hitman video one more time. October 28. Jack chose the specific date. He chose the method. He chose the location. But he made one catastrophic mistake. He didn't know I was watching. He didn't know I was recording. And now, I possess direct, irrefutable, federal-level evidence that Jacob Carson solicited a contract killing against his own wife. Tomorrow morning, I hand this flash drive to Detective Sarah Morgan, and the FBI gets involved. But tonight, sitting alone in the dark, listening to the muffled sounds of my husband shifting in his sleep across the hall, a sudden realization washes over me. I am no longer afraid of him. I am ready for war. It's 8 months until October 28. Jack has absolutely no idea that I know everything. And by the time he finally realizes he walked right into his own trap, it will be far, far too late. It is Tuesday afternoon, March 5. Shortly after 4 p.m., when I walk into the cramped, dimly lit office of Anderson Private Investigations on Tremont Street in downtown Boston. The office smells overwhelmingly of stale Folgers coffee and cheap cigarettes, despite a prominent no smoking sign tacked to the drywall. A man in his late 50s with a closely cropped gray buzz cut sits behind a metal desk buried under manila folders and empty Dunkin' cups. He looks up when the door chimes. So Miller. Yes, I say. Tom Anderson. He stands up, offering a calloused, firm handshake. Take a seat. I sit in the uncomfortable plastic chair, clutching my tote bag. I hired Tom exactly 5 days ago, right after I sat in Sarah's precinct office and watched a room full of detectives react to the hitman video. Sarah immediately opened a covert task force investigation. She secured federal wiretap warrants and told me to lay incredibly low. But I couldn't just sit in my house doing nothing. I needed to know the full scope. I needed to understand exactly why Jack was doing this, and just how deeply Mia was entrenched in my murder plot. So, I paid Tom Anderson an exorbitant daily rate to tail Jack and Mia. I told him to document everything. Now, Tom slides a shockingly thick black folder across the desk. Preliminary report, he grunts. I've been tracking them around the clock for 5 days. They are incredibly sloppy. I open the folder. The first page is a detailed chronological log. The second page is photos. So many photos. Jack and Mia slipping through the side entrance of the Marriott Long Wharf. Jack and Mia sitting in a dark corner booth at a high-end steakhouse in the Seaport, holding hands across the table. Jack and Mia aggressively making out in the parking garage of a Whole Foods in Cambridge. My stomach churns, but I force myself to keep looking. They rendezvous 3 times a week, Tom says, leaning back in his creaky chair. Always at the Marriott. Always between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m., right when you're slammed with the lunch rush at the restaurant. They check in under a fake alias Mr. and Mrs. Thompson. He always pays in cash. I nod slowly, flipping past the hotel photos. What else? Your sister is seeing a fertility specialist. Tom says bluntly. Boston 4VF over in Waltham. I followed her there twice last week. She has standing appointments every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. I look up sharply. Fertility? Yeah. She's actively trying to get pregnant. Tom pulls out another glossy 8x10. It shows Mia walking out of a medical clinic, clutching a thick folder to her chest. From what I gathered, she's been going since January. She's dead serious about it. My chest tightens painfully. Mia wants to have a child with Jack. Does my husband know she's doing this? I ask quietly. Tom shrugs. Hard to say definitively, but based on their body language? I'd say yeah. They act like a married couple planning a future. They don't hide it from each other. Just from you. I close my eyes, taking a slow, ragged breath. And this? Tom slides a final photograph across the desk. Jack and Mia sitting at a small table inside a crowded Starbucks. Jack is holding a piece of paper, pointing to something on it. Mia is looking at the paper, beaming, tears of joy in her eyes. Took that one yesterday, Tom says. I couldn't get close enough to read the fine print, but it looked like official medical letterhead. Test results, maybe? I stare intensely at the photo. Medical documents. An idea hits me like a freight train. Can I see that again? Tom hands me the photo. I pull out my phone, open the camera app, and use the digital zoom to magnify the image. The paper in Jack's hand has a distinct blue logo at the top, New England Wellness Clinic, and below that, printed in standard font, Patient Jacob Carson. Diagnosis, low sperm motility due to prior sports trauma. Treatment plan, testosterone therapy to improve viability. Estimated completion, December 2024. My heart completely stops. What is it? Tom asks, noticing my face drain of color. I need to make a phone call. I dial Sarah's direct line. She picks up on the second ring. Zoe. Is everything okay? I need you to run something through the system right now, I demand. Jack's medical history. Specifically, I need to know if Jacob Carson has ever had a vasectomy. Silence on the line. Why? Because I think he is heavily gaslighting Mia. I think he handed her forged fertility documents claiming he's undergoing treatment to have a baby with her. But I need to know the absolute truth. Hold on, Sarah says. I hear the rapid clacking of a mechanical keyboard in the background. Since we launched the federal probe last week, I have unrestricted access to his sealed records. Give me 60 seconds. I wait. My heart is pounding so hard, it physically hurts my ribs. Tom watches me in total silence. I got it, Sarah finally says. Her voice is low. Stunned, Jacob Michael Carson, DOB. The 12th of April 1988. And... Jesus Christ, Zoe. What? He had a vasectomy, she says slowly. The 15th of August 2019. At Mass General Hospital. It is clearly listed in his surgical history as a permanent sterilization procedure. There is absolutely no record of a reversal. 2019. 3 full years before he married me. He has been lying to me this entire time. Sarah, my voice actually trembles. He told me he just wasn't ready for kids yet. He told me we would start trying next year. He lied to you, she says softly. And if he handed your sister fake lab results, claiming he's doing fertility treatments, he is manipulating her just as badly. Exactly. I hang up the phone. My hands are shaking. Tom is still staring at me. Bad news? He had a vasectomy, I say numbly. 5 years ago. He has been lying to both of us. I pull my laptop out of my bag, connect to the office Wi-Fi and log into the encrypted cloud drive where I saved all the exported data from Jack's phone. I searched through the text messages I ripped from his device 2 weeks ago, right before he changed his passcode. And there it is. A text message from Jack to Marcus Brennan, dated February 25. Keep them both hoping, brother. Hope is the ultimate drug. As long as Zoe thinks I'll give her kids someday, she won't file for divorce. And as long as Mia thinks she's getting pregnant next month, she will do exactly what I tell her. Too easy. I read it twice. 3 times. Hot, angry tears blur my vision. Jack does not love me. He does not love Mia. He does not love anyone on this earth, except himself. He has been systematically using us both, stringing us along with fake promises he literally lacked the anatomy to fulfill, poisoning me to break my spirit, lying to Mia to use her as a pawn in his corporate theft, and doing all of it while actively coordinating a gas explosion to incinerate me, inherit the restaurant, and vanish with $2.8 million. Mia is just another disposable asset in his game. Just like me. The only difference is, she hasn't figured it out yet. I slam the laptop shut. I look at Tom. Can you keep tailing them? As long as the check's clear, I'll follow him to hell. Good. I want everything. Photos, audio, GPS, locations, hotel receipts. Everything. I walk out of the investigator's office with the heavy black folder tucked under my arm, a massive, suffocating weight pressing down on my chest. Jack Carson loves nothing but money, power, and absolute control. And Mia, my own flesh and blood. The little girl I used to read bedtime stories to. The sister who begged me to French braid her hair for prom. She is just another pawn on his chessboard. A tiny, fractured part of my soul wants to call her, wants to warn her, wants to scream at her that Jack is using her, that he's lying about the baby, that he plans to discard her the second the ink dries on the real estate contract. But a much larger, colder part of me, the part that remembers watching her passionately kiss my husband, the part that read her texts begging him to kill me faster, believes she deserves to find out the hard way. Jack lied to both of us. But only one of us holds all the cards now. And I am going to play a flawless hand. It has been exactly 7.5 months since I sat on my bed and watched the hidden camera footage of Jack hiring Rick Donovan to assassinate me. 7 months since I walked into Detective Sarah Morgan's precinct and handed her the flash drive. 7 grueling months of acting, smiling, gathering evidence, and meticulously preparing for this exact moment. After I showed Sarah the Hitman video back in March, she brought in the FBI. We mapped out a massive, agonizingly slow operation. Sarah wanted to raid the house and arrest Jack immediately, but I begged her to hold off. If we arrested him in March, he'd hire a shark defense attorney. He'd claim he was drunk, venting, that he never intended to actually pay the hitman. He'd walk away with a slap on the wrist. But if we waited, if we let him believe his master plan was actually working, if we caught him at the precise moment of execution, there would be 0 legal loopholes. Conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, aggravated assault, he would be buried under a federal penitentiary. So, we waited. Sarah's task force tracked the hitman, Rick Donovan. They picked him up quietly on an unrelated warrant and interrogated him in a black site. Facing life in prison, Rick flipped instantly. He confessed to everything. Jack paid him $15,000 in untraceable cash to deliberately compromise the main gas intake valve at Rose's kitchen. Rick was scheduled to sabotage the valve 3 days before October 28 and then flee to Florida. Jack would ensure I was working alone in the kitchen that night. The highly pressurized gas would silently fill the room. The second I ignited the commercial stove, a catastrophic explosion. An unavoidable tragedy. The grieving widower inherits the deed, sells to Beacon Hill Acquisitions, and vanishes a millionaire. Except now, I know the playbook. And now, exactly 3 days before October 28, it is time to make absolutely sure the bomb doesn't detonate. It is Friday afternoon, October 25. A little past 2 p.m., I am standing alone in the prep kitchen of Rose's kitchen, holding my cell phone to my ear. Boston Gas Emergency Services. This is Brenda. How can I help you? Hi, Brenda, I say, forcing my voice to sound mildly concerned but calm. I am calling from Rose's Kitchen on Commonwealth Avenue. I think we might have a minor gas leak. I've been smelling sulfur near the back prep line for the last 2 days. I understand, ma'am. We take all potential leaks incredibly seriously. I am dispatching a technician to your location immediately. Can you verify the address? 428 Commonwealth Avenue, Boston. Perfect. A truck will be there in less than an hour. Please refrain from using any open flames, and if the odor intensifies, evacuate the building immediately. Thank you. I hang up. I wait. 50 minutes later, a white utility van with the Boston Gas logo pulls into the back alley. A burly man in a navy blue jumpsuit and hard hat steps out, carrying a heavy metal toolbox and an electronic gas sniffer. I meet him at the back door. Hi, I called. Zoe Miller. I'm the owner. Eddie Parker, he says, giving me a firm handshake. Let's take a look. I lead him into the kitchen. He pulls out the electronic sniffer and begins running the wand along the commercial stoves, the iron pipes, and the heavy brass connections. After about 60 seconds, the machine beeps, and he severely frowns. You made the right call, he says, pointing his flashlight at a massive brass intake valve located directly behind the primary fryers. This main valve here? It's been deliberately loosened. Not enough to trigger a massive leak right this second, but if you ran these stoves at maximum capacity during a dinner rush, the vibration would have shaken it loose. It would have flooded this room in minutes. Could have caused a level 5 explosion. My stomach violently drops, but I keep my face completely blank. Can you fix it? Yeah, easily. He drops to his knees and goes to work. He uses a heavy wrench to tighten the brass fittings, seals the threads, and runs the sniffer over the entire line again. 20 minutes later, he stands up and wipes his hands on a rag. You're good to go. Bone dry. Completely safe. But I gotta ask you, lady, do you have any idea how that valve got loosened? Because industrial fittings like that do not just unscrew themselves. I swallow hard. I honestly don't know. Maybe the deep clean crew bumped it with a mop handle last week. He looks at me with heavy skepticism, but he doesn't push it. All right. Well, it's secured now. I'll write up the incident report and... Actually, I interrupt quickly, reaching into my apron and pulling out 5 crisp $100 bills. Could you do me a massive favor? He stops writing on his clipboard. What kind of favor? My husband is a severe hypochondriac, I lie smoothly. If he finds out I had to call the gas company out here, he will panic, shut the restaurant down for a week, and cause an absolute nightmare for my staff. Could you please just not file the official report? Just between us. Consider this a heavy tip for getting here so fast. Eddie looks at the $500 cash. He looks at me. Lady, I am legally required to log every service call. I know, I say pleadingly. But you just fixed it. It's completely safe now. I just really don't want to fight at home tonight. He hesitates for a long 5 seconds. Then, he reaches out, takes the cash, and stuffs it into his jumpsuit pocket. All right. Fine, but if you smell even a hint of sulfur again, you call 911 immediately. I will. Thank you so much. He walks out the back door. I lock the deadbolt behind him and let out a massive, shaky exhale. Step 1 is complete. The sabotaged valve is permanently fixed. But Jack doesn't know that. Rick Donovan doesn't know that. They both believe the bomb is still actively ticking, but I need an extra layer of absolute security. I need to be able to physically control the flow of gas into this building myself, just in case anything goes wrong. So, I make a second phone call. Walsh Commercial Contracting. David speaking. Hi, David. It's Zoe Miller. Sarah Morgan gave me your number. I need you to install a remote-controlled emergency shutoff valve on a commercial gas line. Today. The cost is irrelevant. Today is a tough ask, but for Sarah. I can squeeze you in at 6 p.m. Give me the address. At precisely 6 p.m., David Walsh pulls into the alley in an unmarked black truck. He's a retired structural engineer in his late 50s gray hair, flannel shirt, incredibly discreet. Sarah recommended him specifically because he doesn't ask questions. I let him in through the loading dock. "Show me the rig," he says. I take him to the kitchen. He briefly inspects the main valve eddy, just fixed. "You want a remote shutoff installed here?" "Yes," I say. "Something I can control exclusively from my smartphone. Something that instantly kills the gas to the entire building." He raises one gray eyebrow. "You expecting a war, kid? Let's just say I need absolute control of my own property." He nods slowly. "Fair enough. I can splice in a motorized smart valve. It runs on a closed cellular network. You'll be able to kill the line from a secure app. Take me about 2 hours. It'll run you $1,200. Do it." David works in total silence. Highly efficient. He cuts the pipe, installs a compact, heavy-duty motorized valve directly behind the stoves, and wires it to a small black control box mounted high on the brick wall. He syncs the hardware to a proprietary app on his iPad, then hands me my iPhone. "Download this. Gas Safe Pro. It's already paired to your hardware." I download the app. "See that massive red button on the screen?" he asks. I look down. "Emergency, shoot off." You tap that, the valve slams shut in 0.2 seconds. Absolute zero gas flow. The pilot lights die, the stoves won't spark, the entire kitchen goes dark. To turn it back on, you tap the green button. But I highly recommend manual resets for safety. Perfect. I hand him $1,200 in cash from the trust fund. He tips an imaginary hat and leaves without another word. I stand alone in the empty kitchen, staring down at my glowing phone screen. One digital button. That is all it takes. I test it. I tap the red button. Clack. A loud, heavy mechanical sound echoes from behind the stoves as the valve physically slams shut. I tap the green button. Click. It opens. I do it 3 more times, just to be absolutely certain. I slide the phone into my pocket. The kitchen is fully secured. The gas is entirely under my control. And Jack Carson has absolutely no idea. I walk over to the front window and look out onto Commonwealth Avenue. The sun is setting over Boston, casting long, fiery orange shadows across the pavement. In exactly 3 days, Jack will walk through those doors fully expecting me to die. He expects the restaurant to explode. He expects to walk away with millions. But he is wrong. October 28th will not be the day Zoe Miller dies. It will be the day Jack Carson burns to the ground. And I will be the one holding the match. It is Sunday night, October 27. 7:30 p.m. I am sitting completely alone in the back office of Rose's kitchen. My iPhone gripped tightly in my hand, a massive knot forming in my stomach. Tomorrow is October 28. Tomorrow is the day Jack plotted to murder me. Tomorrow is the day this all finally ends. The restaurant is closed on Sundays. The dining room is pitch black and dead silent. The only sounds are the low hum of the walk-in refrigerator and the steady tick-tock of the vintage wall clock Grandma Rose hung up 30 years ago. Outside, a classic nor'easter rainstorm is battering Boston, the heavy drops drumming against the glass like 1,000 tiny fists. I open an app called Text Now, a burner app I downloaded yesterday that generates untraceable temporary phone numbers. I've used it to communicate securely with Sarah, but tonight, I am using it for something much darker. I am using it to lure my sister into the kill box. I stare at the blank message screen, my thumb hovering over the digital keyboard. This is the exact moment. The moment I manipulate Mia into walking straight into her own execution. A tiny, pathetic part of me still wants to call her Wants to warn her. Wants to scream that Jack is using her. That he's lying to her. That he plans to throw her to the wolves the second he gets the insurance money. I want to tell her about the vasectomy. About the forged clinic papers. About the texts where he mocks her for believing he wants a baby. But I can't. Because Mia made a choice. She actively chose to sleep with my husband. She actively chose to help him steal our grandmother's legacy. She actively chose to smile in my face while counting down the days until my murder. And tomorrow night, she is going to face the brutal consequences of those choices. I take a deep breath. I start typing. The text has to sound exactly like Jack. Not too formal, not too panicked. The perfect, arrogant mix of cockiness and urgency. I have spent months reading his private messages. I know exactly how he speaks to her. I type, babe. Zoe is throwing some last-minute anniversary dinner tomorrow night, Oct 28, at 8 p.m. at Rose's. She's trying to win me back. She invited my mom and a bunch of our friends to guilt-trip me into staying. I pause. Then I keep typing. Honestly, it's perfect. With a room full of witnesses, the accident will look even more believable, and nobody will suspect a thing. I need you to show up as a normal guest. Act super sweet to Zoe. When it happens, after everyone leaves around 10, we'll have a rock-solid alibi because we were in a crowded room. Do not call my real phone. Zoe is watching me like a hawk. Trust me, babe. After tomorrow night, we are free. I love you. I read the block of text 3 times. 4 times. I make absolutely sure the cadence sounds like him. Make sure it makes logical sense. Make sure Mia will swallow the bait. I hit send. Message sent. Delivered. I drop the phone onto the desk and stare at it. My heart is thumping wildly against my ribs. What if she doesn't believe it? What if she panics and calls his real number? What if she doesn't show up? I check the clock. 7:34. I wait 1 minute. 2. 5. The phone violently vibrates. I snatch it up so fast I nearly drop it. Message from Mia. Okay, babe. I'll be there. After tomorrow, we have everything, right? I stare at the glowing screen, and something deep inside my chest finally shatters. After tomorrow, we have everything. She actually believes it. She genuinely believes Jack loves her. She believes he's going to divorce me, open Mia's table in Seattle, and live happily ever after with my stolen money. She has no idea he had a vasectomy 5 years ago. She has no idea he is entirely incapable of giving her the child he promised. She has no idea that when he finally gets the cash, he will leave her with absolutely nothing. Or worse, frame her as the mastermind. I type back, channeling Jack's arrogant persona, we'll have everything, babe. I promise. See you tomorrow. Wear something gorgeous, and remember act surprised when you walk in. She replies instantly. I will. I love you. I close the app, permanently delete the conversation thread, and wipe the phone's cache. I sit alone in the dark office, staring blankly at the wall. I don't feel victorious. I don't feel like a brilliant mastermind. I just feel profoundly sad. Because tomorrow night, Mia is going to walk into Rose's kitchen, believing she is about to win the lottery, and instead, she is going to lose her entire life. But I can't stop the train now. Not after everything Jack has done to me. I stand up, shove the burner phone into my purse, lock the office door, and walk out into the Boston rain. Everything is perfectly staged. The gas line is under my digital control. The federal evidence is secured in 3 separate locations. Sarah Morgan knows the exact timeline. The guests are formally invited. And Mia just confirmed she will be walking through the front doors tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Every single person I need will be locked inside one room. And when the night is over, Jacob Carson and Mia Miller will be wearing federal handcuffs. It is Monday morning, October 28, 6 a.m. I wake up before my alarm even goes off. I didn't sleep more than 2 hours. Today is the day. I grab my iPhone from the nightstand and open the GasSafe Pro app. I tap the massive red button. Emergency shoot-off. 2 miles away in downtown Boston, the heavy brass valve behind the stoves at Rose's kitchen mechanically slams shut. Zero gas, zero explosion, zero accident. Jack's master plan is dead before the sun even comes up. I get dressed in the dark. Black denim, a charcoal cashmere sweater, and Grandma Rose's vintage white apron folded neatly in my tote bag. I drive through the empty, rain-slicked streets of Boston until I reach the restaurant. I unlock the heavy back door and step inside. It's freezing cold and dead silent. The air smells of roasted cumin and cinnamon, the ghosts of a million meals cooked in this very room. I flip on the harsh fluorescent overhead lights, tie my grandmother's apron around my waist, and get to work. Today, I am not just cooking a dinner service. I am physically plating a federal indictment. 7 courses. 7 sins. 7 pieces of irrefutable evidence that will permanently destroy Jacob Carson. I start by writing out the menu on the large chalkboard that hangs in the main dining room. First course, bitter coffee. Poisoning via ipecac. Second course, forged contract. Wire fraud. Third course, broken promises. The vasectomy lie. Fourth course, betrayal. Infidelity. Fifth course, the murder plot. Conspiracy via gas explosion. Sixth course, blind ambition. Mia's table. Seventh course, the truth. Justice. I step back and stare at it. It is perfect. Cold, precise, and absolutely lethal. I start cooking. First course. I brew a pot of exceptionally strong, dark roast coffee. I pour a single mug and place it on a silver serving tray right next to the laminated Mass General Lab toxicology report. Syrup of ipecac. 50 milliliters per 250 milliliters. This is what Jack fed me every single morning for 90 days. This is how he tried to break my body. Second course. A deconstructed Waldorf salad. Crisp greens, sharp vinaigrette, pungent blue cheese. Tucked neatly underneath the glass plate is a printed copy of the forged Beacon Hill acquisitions contract. My forged signature. $2,800,000. Marcus Brennan's signature at the bottom. Third course, pan-seared Nantucket scallops with a bitter lemon reduction. Delicate, beautiful, and incredibly sour. Resting right next to the plate is Jack's official surgical record. Mass General Hospital. The 15th of August 2019. Permanent vasectomy. Years before he married me. Years before, he promised Mia a baby. Fourth course. A heavy beef Wellington, served alongside printed, high-res screenshots. I love you, babe. After this, we'll have everything. Mia's table opens next spring. 18 solid months of lies served as a main entree. Fifth course. The hardest one to cook. I prepare Grandma Rose's legendary Yankee pot roast. It takes hours of simmering, patience, and love. I played it directly next to a printed transcript of the hidden camera video. Loosen the valve. If someone dies, the feds won't trace it. Make sure she doesn't walk out of the building. The irrefutable proof. The attempted murder plot. Sixth course. Dessert. A classic Boston cream pie. The exact recipe Grandma Rose taught me when I was 8 years old. Sitting next to the cake is the final email from Marcus Brennan. Once the POA is signed, we wire the $2. 8M. You are free to start over with M in Seattle. Seventh course. Just a single square of 90% dark chocolate on a pristine white porcelain plate. No garnish. No explanation. The absolute, bitter truth. I spend the entire afternoon staging the dining room, photographing every single dish just in case something goes sideways. At noon, Aunt Carol arrives in her Subaru, carrying a box of portable electric induction burners. She prepped half the menu at her own house to help me pull this off. She is the only civilian besides Sarah who knows exactly what is about to happen tonight. You ready for this, kiddo? She asks, her face grim. I've been ready since February, I reply. She nods. She doesn't ask any more questions. That's why I love her. By 2 p.m., the kitchen is fully prepped. I move into the dining room. I set up a portable projector screen near the front window and connect my MacBook. I run a quick test of the presentation, the hotel photos, the Brennan emails, the medical records, the Hitman video, flawless. At 3 p.m., Detective Sarah Morgan walks through the front door. Dark jeans, leather jacket, her gold shield clipped openly to her belt. Everything secure? She asks, her eyes sweeping the room. Everything is perfect. Jack has absolutely no idea. She nods. I will be sitting at that corner table at 7:45 p.m. as an invited guest. I have a 6-man FBI tactical team sitting in unmarked vans in the alleyway. If anything goes south, they breach in 2 seconds. It won't go south, I say. She looks at me, squeezing my shoulder. Your grandmother would be incredibly proud of you today. I just nod. I can't trust my voice to speak. At 5 p.m., I set the main dining table. 15 places. Heavy white linens, tall taper candles, embossed name cards. Jack sits at the absolute head of the table. Mia directly to his right. Marcus Brennan to his left. I will sit at the opposite end, staring straight down the barrel at him. At 6:30 p.m., I go into the office and change. A stunning, floor-length burgundy dress. I pull my hair up into an elegant twist and put on Grandma Rose's vintage silver earrings. I look at myself in the mirror. I barely recognize the woman staring back. She is harder, sharper, lethal. At 7 p.m., I light the candles. The dining room glows with a warm, beautiful amber light. It looks like a magazine cover. It looks like the perfect trap. I stand by the host stand, watching the flames flicker. My phone vibrates. Message from Jack. On my way. See you soon, sweetheart. I don't reply. Message from Mia. Almost there. So nervous, but excited. I smile. A cold, razor-thin smile. You should be nervous. At 7:30 p.m., I pop the cork on a $300 bottle of Cabernet. I pour myself a glass. I don't drink a drop, I just hold it. Everything is set. The dinner party is about to begin, and Jack Carson has no idea that he is the main course. Before I take you inside that dining room on the night of October 28, where I serve federal justice alongside the appetizers, drop the word truth in the comments so I know you're still with me. What happens next is going to absolutely floor you. And a quick warning, the following confrontation gets incredibly intense. If you don't like high-stakes drama, now is the time to click away. The dining room of Rose's kitchen glowed under the amber light of 24 taper candles. Their flames flickered softly in the crisp Boston autumn breeze slipping through a cracked window near the mahogany bar. I stood rigidly behind the host's stand, wearing the deep burgundy dress I had chosen specifically for tonight. Elegant, imposing, the exact kind of dress a woman wears when she knows she is about to end a man's life. The air was thick with the scent of roasted garlic, fresh rosemary, and the sweet caramelization of the Yankee pot roast simmering in the back. I had spent the last 3 hours preparing a 5-star meal that no one in this room would ever forget. My hands were remarkably steady as I smoothed down the white linen tablecloth one final time. I adjusted the single blood-red rose in the center vase and checked my phone screen. 7:50 p.m. In exactly 2 minutes, the first guest would arrive. The steel trap I had meticulously built over the last 8 months was finally snapping shut. At 8:05 p.m., the heavy front door swung open. Jack walked in. His broad shoulders filled the doorframe. His smile was warm, effortlessly charming, and entirely fake. He was wearing the tailored charcoal suit I bought him for our first anniversary, the one he always claimed made him feel invincible. He crossed the dining room in 3 long strides, wrapped his arms around my waist, and kissed my forehead with the exact same tenderness he showed on our wedding day. "Happy anniversary, sweetheart," he murmured against my hair, his voice low and intimate. Liar. I forced myself to smile, to lean into his chest, to play the role of the adoring, clueless wife one final time. Thank you for being here, I whispered. My right hand hovered over the pocket of my dress, my thumb resting over the screen of my phone, over the digital gas valve button. At 8:10 p.m., Mia walked in. Her red hair was styled in an elegant, sweeping updo. She wore an emerald green silk dress that hugged her curves in a way that was impossible to ignore. She stopped in the foyer and looked around the room, feigning absolute, perfectly rehearsed surprise. Zoe, you invited me? She gasped, her voice light and bubbly, as if we were the best of friends. I smiled, offering zero warmth. Of course I did, Mia. Your family, after all. Her eyes darted to Jack for a fraction of a second, communicating volumes, before she looked away. At 8:15 p.m., Marcus Brennan arrived, silver hair perfectly coiffed, wearing a crisp navy blue suit. His handshake was aggressive and firm. Jack, great to see you, Marcus said, clapping my husband on the shoulder. Zoe, thank you so much for the invitation. Your grandmother's restaurant has always been an absolute legend in Boston. I nodded gracefully. Out of the corner of my eye, I watched the subtle tension spike in Jack's smile. I watched the way he tracked Marcus's every movement, like a cornered predator trying to calculate the odds. At 8:20 p.m., Jack's mother, Linda Carson, walked in. Soft silver waves, a lavender silk blouse, a string of authentic pearls. She possessed the kind of refined New England elegance cultivated over decades of country club dinners. She pulled me into a tight hug, her expensive floral perfume enveloping me. My dear girl, she beamed. I am so incredibly proud of you both. 2 years already. Time just flies when you're in love. I hugged her back for a second longer than normal, a heavy pang of guilt hitting my chest. She was a good woman. She had absolutely no idea what her son was. At 8:25 p.m., Detective Sarah Morgan walked through the door. Dark blazer, dark jeans. Her gold police shield completely concealed beneath her jacket. She gave me a brief, firm hug. Zoe, it's been far too long, she announced loudly for the room. I am so glad to be here. I squeezed her hand. A silent, terrifying message passed between us. She wasn't here to eat. She was here to make arrests. Over the next 15 minutes, the rest of the oblivious guests filtered in. Aunt Carol arrived at 8:28, her face pale but resolute. My cousin Matthew and his wife Emily at 8:32, carrying a sleeping toddler. The Andersons, our oldest loyal customers, at 8:36, carrying a bottle of expensive Merlot. Reverend Thomas, the man who married us, at 8:40. My best friend Jenny at 8:43, her DSLR camera strapped around her neck. And finally, at 8:47 p.m., Benjamin Harley walked in. He exuded absolute, terrifying legal authority. By 8:50 p.m., all 15 guests were seated around the massive, candlelit dining table. Soft laughter bounced off the brick walls. Trivial, meaningless conversations filled the air, a perfect illusion of normalcy. I picked up my wine glass and tapped it with a silver spoon. The ringing silenced the room. Thank you all for being here tonight, I began, my voice projecting loud and perfectly clear. Exactly 2 years ago, Jack and I stood in front of many of you and promised to love each other forever. Tonight, I wanted to celebrate exactly what that promise means. I made deliberate eye contact with every single person. Jack, looking confident and smug. Mia, trying to look demure. Marcus, looking mildly bored. Linda, beaming with pride. Sarah, sitting rigidly, waiting for the signal. I have prepared a very special menu tonight, I continued. 7 courses, heavily inspired by my grandmother, Rose. But tonight's menu also tells a story. I paused, letting the silence stretch until it became uncomfortable. A story about absolute trust, about unimaginable betrayal, and about exactly how far someone will go to steal what they want. I saw Jack's spine instantly stiffen. Just a millimeter. But it was enough. I set my wine glass down, walked gracefully into the kitchen, and picked up the first tray. The first course will be served now, I announced, stepping back into the dining room. And with it, the story begins. I locked eyes with my husband and offered a dead, terrifying smile. I think you're going to find this incredibly revealing. By 8:55 p.m., everyone was staring at me. I stood at the head of the table holding a heavy silver tray. I knew that the next 35 minutes would permanently obliterate multiple lives. I walked straight to Jack and placed a ceramic mug of steaming black coffee directly in front of him. For the last 3 months, I said, my voice echoing off the brick walls. For 90 consecutive days, my loving husband woke up early to prepare my morning coffee. The room was dead silent. He was so incredibly attentive. So loving, I continued. But what he forgot to mention was that every single morning, he was lacing that coffee with 15 milliliters of syrup of Ipecac. I pulled the laminated Mass General lab report from beneath the tray and dropped it onto Jack's pristine white dinner plate. Ipecac detected. Jack's face instantly drained of all color. He looked like he'd been shot. His hands gripped the edge of the table, so hard his knuckles turned stark white. He opened his mouth, but I didn't give him a single second to speak. He was systematically poisoning me, I said loudly to the horrified room. He was deliberately breaking down my physical health to make me vulnerable for what came next. I spun around, grabbed the remote, and turned on the projector. A massive image flashed onto the exposed brick wall behind me. The second truth of the night is about corporate theft, I said, my voice cutting through the rising panic in the room like a scalpel. The image on the wall was an email. From Marcus Brennan, Beacon Hill Acquisitions. Date, 9/3/2023. Message, once you secure the power of attorney, the transfer will take 90 days. Make sure she is too weak to fight back. I clicked the remote. The next email appeared. From Jack Carson. Date, 22 January 2024. Message, the Ipecac is working. She is losing weight and barely has the energy to run the kitchen. By April, the restaurant is ours. I turned slowly and locked eyes with Marcus Brennan. His jaw was clenched, so tight I thought his teeth would shatter. Mr. Brennan offered my husband $2.8 million to steal my grandmother's restaurant from out under me. He assumed I would just quietly die off. Marcus violently shoved his chair back and stood up, his face red with fury. But before he could take a single step toward the exit, Detective Sarah Morgan was out of her seat. She stood in front of the door, her hand resting heavily on her visible gold shield. Sit back down, Mr. Brennan, she ordered, her voice vibrating with federal authority. You aren't going anywhere. Marcus froze. He slowly lowered himself back into his chair. I clicked the remote again. The screen split down the middle, displaying 2 vastly different medical documents side by side. The third truth of the night, I announced, turning my gaze to my sister, is about the sickening lies Jack told the woman he was sleeping with. Mia looked utterly terrified. Confusion and sheer panic warred on her face. On the left, I pointed to the screen, is a fertility report from a clinic that literally does not exist. A document Jack forged to convince my sister that he was undergoing treatment for low sperm count, so they could have a baby together. I pointed to the document on the right. And on the right is Jack's actual surgical history from Mass General Hospital. Dated the 15th of August 2019, Jack had a permanent vasectomy 3 years before he married me, and 5 years before he promised my sister a child. A collective gasp ripped through the dining room. He forged medical documents to keep you hoping, Mia, I said, my voice devoid of any sympathy. He manipulated you. He used your desperation for a child to turn you into a compliant pawn. He never had any intention of giving you a family. Mia's face completely shattered. A horrific, guttural sob ripped from her throat. Is that true? She wailed, turning to stare at Jack. Jack said absolutely nothing. He stared straight ahead, a muscle ticking violently in his jaw, looking like a trapped rat. The fourth truth, I said, clicking the remote. A rapid slideshow of high-res photographs flooded the brick wall. Jack and Mia passionately kissing in the alleyway of the Marriott, holding hands at a steakhouse, walking into a hotel elevator. These photographs were taken by a licensed private investigator over the last 6 months, I said. My sister and my husband, carrying on a full-blown affair while I was sick in bed. Linda Carson, Jack's mother, let out a piercing cry. She covered her mouth with both trembling hands, tears streaming down her wrinkled face. Jacob, dear God, how could you? Jack finally snapped. He slammed his fists onto the table and stood up, his face contorted in absolute rage. Mom, shut up. This isn't what it looks like. Zoe is a psychotic bitch. She's manipulating these documents to ruin me because I asked for a divorce. Oh, really? I asked coldly. I pressed play on the laptop. Jack's own voice boomed through the restaurant's surround sound speakers. I need you to handle a specific job for me, Rick. There's a main gas line behind the kitchen. I need you to loosen the valve. The hitman's voice echoed back. That sounds like an explosion. Jack's voice returned, chillingly calm. It sounds like an accident. $15,000 cash. October 28th. Sometime after 8 p.m. Absolute, terrifying, graveyard silence fell over the dining room. Nobody breathed. Nobody moved. I hit pause. I pulled my iPhone out of my pocket and held it up, displaying the GasSafe Pro app with the giant red button. The fifth truth, I said, my voice dropping to a lethal whisper, is premeditated murder. My husband hired a hitman to sabotage the commercial gas line in my kitchen. Tonight. He planned for this entire building to explode at 8 p.m. He planned to murder me, to murder his mistress, and to murder every single one of you sitting at this table, including his own mother, just so he would have a perfect alibi and a $2.8 million insurance payout. Linda Carson completely collapsed forward onto the table, sobbing hysterically into her arms. Aunt Carol rushed over to hold her. Jack's face turned the color of ash. I didn't. He stammered, backing away from the table. I didn't want anyone else to get hurt. It was only supposed to be. He stopped abruptly. He realized exactly what he had just confessed to in a room full of witnesses. I clicked the remote one final time. A screenshot of iMessages appeared. The sixth truth is blind ambition. I read the texts aloud. Jack, when Zoe is gone, we'll open our own place. Mia's table. Just you and me. Jack replies. I can't wait, babe. I love you. Mia had her hands buried in her red hair, her entire body shaking violently as she wept openly at the table. She was completely broken. I set the remote down on the table next to the single piece of dark chocolate. And the seventh truth, I whispered into the deafening silence of the room, is justice. Detective Sarah Morgan stepped forward into the center of the room. She held up her gold FBI task force shield. Jacob Carson, she barked, her voice echoing off the brick. You are under arrest for attempted homicide in the first degree, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, aggravated assault, and solicitation of arson. She turned sharply to Marcus. Marcus Brennan, you are under arrest for federal racketeering and conspiracy to commit fraud. She pulled a pair of heavy steel handcuffs from her belt and ratcheted them violently onto Jack's wrists. The metallic click-click-click sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. At that exact moment, the back door of the kitchen burst open. Detective James Torres, flanked by 2 armed, vest-wearing FBI agents, stormed into the dining room. Torres grabbed Marcus Brennan by the collar of his expensive suit, slammed him against the brick wall, and cuffed him with terrifying precision. You have the right to remain silent, Sarah recited, her voice booming over Linda Carson's sobbing. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. I stood at the head of the table, perfectly still, watching as they dragged Jack toward the front door. It was exactly 9:28 p.m., the 28th of October 2024. His head was bowed, his shoulders slumped in absolute, catastrophic defeat. And deep inside my chest, something massive finally unlocked. It wasn't the thrill of victory. It was a profound, overwhelming sense of peace. The absolute certainty that the scales of the universe had been balanced. Mia was still slumped over the table, wailing into her hands. Linda Carson reached out with trembling fingers and grabbed my hand. Her eyes were swollen and bloodshot. "Zoe, I am so sorry. I swear to God, I had no idea." I squeezed her fragile hand gently. "I know you didn't, Linda. None of this was your fault." At 9:30 p.m., the heavy front door slammed shut behind Jack and Marcus. The dining room fell into an eerie, shell-shocked silence, interrupted only by Mia's ragged breathing. I looked around the room at the pale, horrified faces of my friends and family. "It's over," I said softly. "It is finally over." 5 minutes later, Sarah Morgan stood in the center of the ruined dining room. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced clearly, "what you have witnessed tonight is the culmination of an 8-month federal sting operation. I need everyone to remain in their seats while my forensics team processes this scene." She turned her attention to Mia. Mia was backed into the far corner of the room, trembling like a stray dog. Sarah approached her slowly. Her tone shifted from aggressive cop to clinical negotiator. "Mia Miller, you received a text message at 7:34 p.m. last night, supposedly from Jacob Carson, inviting you to this dinner to serve as an alibi for what he explicitly stated would be a fatal accident. Is that correct?" Mia nodded frantically, tears streaming down her face. "Yes. But I thought. He told me it was just going to look like an accident, so he wouldn't have to pay alimony. I didn't know he was going to blow up a building. I didn't know he wanted to kill her." Sarah stared at her coldly. "Did you have any prior knowledge that he was systematically poisoning your sister with ipecac syrup?" Mia shook her head violently. "No! I swear to God. I knew they were getting a divorce. I knew he was trying to get the restaurant. But I never ever thought he would physically hurt her." Sarah pulled a digital voice recorder from her jacket pocket. "Mia, the U.S. Attorney's Office is prepared to offer you a proffer agreement. If you fully cooperate with the FBI and the Suffolk County District Attorney, if you testify under oath against Jacob Carson and Marcus Brennan, your charges will be reduced from accessory to attempted murder down to obstruction of justice. Do you understand?" Mia looked past Sarah. She looked directly at me. Her eyes were red, swollen, pleading. "Zoe, please. I am so sorry. I was so stupid. I actually thought he loved me." I stood there, my arms crossed over my chest, my face in a motionless mask. I said absolutely nothing. I had nothing left to say to her. At 9:42 p.m., the crime scene technicians flooded the restaurant. They bagged the poisoned coffee mug. They seized my laptop, the projector, and Mia's cell phone. They went into the kitchen to photograph and dismantle the sabotaged gas valve. At 9:50 p.m., Sarah led Mia out the front doors in handcuffs. Mia had agreed to testify. She had signed the papers on the spot. Just before they pushed Jack into the back of the armored police cruiser outside, he twisted around. His dead, soulless eyes locked onto mine through the glass of the restaurant door. "You're going to regret this, Zoe," he screamed, his voice muffled through the glass. "You think you won? You destroyed our entire family." I stared back at him without blinking. "No, Jack. I thought. You destroyed it. I just made damn sure you paid the bill." The cruiser pulled away into the rainy Boston night. Benjamin Harley walked up beside me and placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing, Zoe." I nodded slowly. I couldn't find the words. But for the first time in 8 grueling months, the crushing weight on my chest began to lift. On the 18th of December, 2024, exactly 7 weeks and 3 days after the dinner party, I sat in the front row of courtroom 412 at the Suffolk County Superior Court in downtown Boston. My hands were neatly folded in my lap, my black wool coat pulled tight against the bitter New England winter draft seeping through the historic windows. I watched in total silence as Judge Margaret Whitmore entered the room. Black robes. Severe expression. The federal trial had lasted 3 grueling weeks. Today was sentencing. The gallery was packed to capacity. Local Boston Globe reporters had their notepads out. Benjamin Harley sat to my right. Detective Sarah Morgan sat 2 rows behind me. Linda Carson was nowhere to be seen. She had publicly and legally disowned her son weeks ago. Judge Whitmore took her seat, adjusted her reading glasses, and stared down at the defense table. This court will now proceed to sentencing in the matter of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts versus Jacob Michael Carson, Marcus James Brennan, and Mia Miller. She banged her gavel once. Mr. Carson, please stand. Jack stood up slowly. He was wearing an oversized Orange County jumpsuit. He looked hollowed out. Pale, exhausted, entirely broken by 2 months in solitary confinement. Jacob Michael Carson, Judge Whitmore began, her voice booming with absolute authority. A jury of your peers has found you guilty of attempted murder in the 1st degree, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon via poisoning, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and solicitation of arson. The staggering mountain of evidence presented in this courtroom proves that you engaged in a highly premeditated, sadistic plot to systematically poison your wife, steal her family's generational business, and ultimately incinerate her in a gas explosion that would have claimed the lives of 14 innocent bystanders. Absolute silence blanketed the courtroom. Your actions represent one of the most depraved, sociopathic cases of domestic violence and financial exploitation this jurisdiction has ever prosecuted. I hereby sentence you to 25 years in the Federal Correctional Institution in Danbury without the possibility of parole for the first 20 years. Furthermore, you are ordered to pay $500,000 in direct punitive restitution to Mrs. Zoe Miller, to be secured through the immediate liquidation of all your personal assets. You are permanently stripped of any and all marital claims to Rose's Kitchen. Jack's high-priced defense attorney leaned forward, trying to speak, but Jack simply collapsed back into his wooden chair. Total defeat. The judge moved her icy glare to Marcus. Mr. Brennan, stand up. Marcus stood. Even in an orange jumpsuit, he tried to maintain his corporate posture. Marcus James Brennan. You have been found guilty of racketeering, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and accessory to attempted murder. Your digital correspondence with Mr. Carson explicitly proves your malicious intent to financially exploit a woman you knew was being actively poisoned. Marcus stared straight ahead, his jaw locked. I sentence you to 12 years in federal prison. Furthermore, you are permanently barred from holding any executive, financial, or ownership positions within the hospitality or real estate industries within the United States for the remainder of your natural life. The court notes that Beacon Hill Acquisitions has already terminated your employment and cooperated fully with the FBI. Finally, Judge Whitmore's gaze shifted to the far side of the table. To Mia. Mia was sitting with her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. Her red hair was pulled back into a severe, plain ponytail. Her eyes were permanently swollen from crying. Miss Miller, stand up. Mia stood up shakily. Her public defender had to hold her elbow to keep her upright. Mia Miller. You accepted a plea deal, pleading guilty to accessory after the fact and obstruction of justice. The court formally recognizes your full cooperation with the Federal Bureau of Investigation and your instrumental testimony against both Mr. Carson and Mr. Brennan. The court also acknowledges the psychological manipulation you endured and accepts the evidence proving you were unaware of the explosive nature of the murder plot. The judge paused, her expression hardening. However, your willing participation in an extended extramarital affair with your sister's husband, your eager acceptance of stolen financial assets, and your sickening willingness to provide an alibi for what you believed was an accidental injury to your own sister, demonstrates a catastrophic failure of moral character. Mia closed her eyes, tears leaking out onto her cheeks. I sentence you to 5 years of supervised federal probation, 800 hours of mandatory community service to be completed within the first 24 months, and mandated intensive psychiatric therapy. Furthermore, a permanent restraining order is hereby issued. You are legally forbidden from contacting Zoe Miller, directly or indirectly, for the rest of your life without her explicit written consent. Mia nodded weakly. Thank you, Your Honor, she croaked. The gavel cracked like a gunshot. Court was adjourned. The gallery erupted into murmurs as the bailiffs quickly ushered Jack and Marcus through the side doors. I remained in my seat, staring at the empty wooden bench where the judge had just sat. I felt a strange, hollow void in my chest. I had won the war. But at what cost? Sarah walked down the aisle and slid into the wooden pew next to me. Zoe, you did it. Justice was served today. You can finally breathe. I nodded slowly. I know. It just doesn't feel the way I thought it would. She placed a warm hand over mine. It never does, kid. But you survived. That is the only thing that matters. As we stood up to leave, Benjamin Harley handed me a sealed white envelope. A bailiff handed this to me. It's from Mia. I opened the envelope that night, sitting alone in the profound silence of my Boston apartment. It was a single sheet of lined paper, written in Mia's shaky handwriting. Zoe, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, and I am not asking for it. I was selfish, I was blind, and I will pay for what I did for the rest of my miserable life. I am so sorry. I carefully folded the letter in half. I placed it in a desk drawer. I did not write back. Jack lost his freedom. Marcus lost his empire. Mia lost her only family. And I got my restaurant back. I got my physical safety back. I got federal justice. But I permanently lost the sister I thought I knew. I lost the marriage I deeply believed in. And I lost the innocent belief that the people you love the most will never be the ones to destroy you. The sun breached the horizon over the Atlantic Ocean at exactly 6:15 a.m. on the 15th of May 2025. The brilliant golden light washed over the freezing, wet sand of Cape Cod. I was walking barefoot toward the shoreline, clutching Grandma Rosa's old leather recipe book tightly to my chest. The leather was worn, the pages stained with flour and decades-old spices, the physical fingerprints of a woman who taught me that cooking was never just about food. It was about survival. It was about fierce, unconditional love. Even when the world violently tries to rip everything away from you. I had woken up at 4:30 a.m. with a sudden, overwhelming need to drive out here. A 90-minute drive from Boston to the exact spot where Rose used to bring me when I was a heartbroken teenager. The ocean washes everything clean, my girl, she used to say, holding my small hand in hers. No matter how bad it hurts today, the tide always rolls back out, and life keeps moving forward. It had been 6 full months since the federal sentencing. 6 months since I walked out of that Boston courthouse feeling hollow, wondering if putting men in cages was actually enough to heal my soul. But I did exactly what Rose taught me to do. I rebuilt. The $150,000 from the trust fund, combined with the $500,000 court-ordered restitution from Jack's liquidated assets, gave me far more than financial stability. It gave me absolute power. I paid off every single vendor debt Rose's kitchen owed. I completely gutted and renovated the dining room. Exposed brick walls, warm mahogany floors, expanding from 25 tables to 40. I installed a massive, state-of-the-art commercial kitchen. And on the main wall, I commissioned a beautiful, floor-to-ceiling mural of Grandma Rose. Her hands coated in flour. Her eternal, radiant smile watching over the room. But the most important thing I built wasn't made of bricks and mortar. In February, I formally launched the Rose Miller Heritage Fund. It is a registered nonprofit organization that provides substantial financial grants, aggressive legal counsel, and business mentorship to women actively escaping domestic violence or severe financial abuse. In March, we awarded our first 3 massive grants. 3 women who dreamed of opening their own bakeries, their own food trucks, their own catering companies. Watching them cry tears of sheer joy on the day we handed them the checks. It fundamentally healed a piece of my broken soul. Rose's Kitchen officially reopened to the public on April 8. A revamped menu featuring my grandmother's classic, New England recipes, elevated to fine dining standards. Aunt Carol stepped up as my official business partner with a 20% equity stake. We built something infinitely better, more compassionate, and unbreakable. By late April, Boston Magazine wrote a glowing feature on us, nominating us for the Best Family-Owned Restaurant of 2025. But despite all the blinding success, there was still a lingering shadow. A week ago, on May 8, I was locking the front doors of the restaurant at 9 p.m. I looked across Commonwealth Avenue and saw Mia standing under a street lamp. She was standing perfectly still in the freezing rain, just staring at the restaurant. She didn't cross the street. She didn't try to come inside. She just stood there for 10 minutes, crying, and then walked away into the dark. The next morning, I found a bouquet of white roses sitting on the restaurant's back steps. Tucked inside was a tiny card. I am not asking for your forgiveness. I just need you to know that I regret it every single second of every single day. I read the note a dozen times. I threw the flowers in the dumpster. I didn't reach out to her. I wasn't ready. And the brutal truth is, I might never be ready. Some betrayals are so profound, so radioactive, that forgiveness is simply not an option. Standing on the beach at Cape Cod, the freezing Atlantic water rushing over my bare feet, my iPhone buzzed in my coat pocket. It was an email from a woman named Eleanor. I opened it. Dear Zoe, I am 29 years old. 2 months ago, I fled a highly abusive marriage in the middle of the night with my 7-year-old daughter. We are currently living in a women's shelter in South Boston. A social worker told me about the Rose Heritage Fund. I have always dreamed of working in a commercial kitchen. I know I don't have a culinary degree, but I promise you, I will outwork everyone in the room. Would you please consider giving me a chance? I read the email twice. A profound, glowing warmth ignited in the center of my chest. I typed my reply right there on the beach. Dear Eleanor, it would be my absolute honor to meet you. Please come to Rose's Kitchen this Monday morning at 10 a.m. We will start rebuilding your life together. I hit send. I looked out over the vast, churning Atlantic Ocean. The violent waves were crashing brutally against the rocky shoreline, just as they had for thousands of years, and yet the rocks never broke. They just became smoother. Sharper. I thought about Jack Carson, rotting in a tiny concrete cell at FCI Danbury. I thought about Marcus Brennan, permanently stripped of his corporate empire and his freedom. I thought about Mia, living a lonely, isolated life burdened by crushing guilt. I thought about the restaurant they almost ripped from my hands. About the life I almost lost. About the weaponized love they used against me. And then I thought about Eleanor. About the 3 women we had already funded. About Aunt Carol. About the hundreds of loyal customers who packed our dining room every single night, not just for the incredible food, but for the overwhelming sense of safety and community they felt inside Rose's walls. I opened the old leather recipe book to the very first page, where Grandma Rose had written in her beautiful, slanted cursive. Never, ever let anyone steal your fire. I traced the faded ink with my index finger, and I could hear her voice clearly in the wind. The tide always rolls back out, my girl. And life keeps moving forward. I didn't know exactly what the future held. I hadn't forgiven my sister, and I likely never would. But I had finally forgiven myself. I forgave myself for trusting the wrong man. I forgave myself for being blind to the blatant red flags. I forgave myself for naively believing that love alone was a shield, when sometimes, love is the very blade that cuts you the deepest. Rose's Kitchen was no longer just a restaurant. It was a fortress. It was living, breathing proof that women like me, like Eleanor, like every single survivor who walked through our doors, could endure absolute hellfire and still build an empire from the ashes. As long as there is breath in my lungs, I will violently protect my grandmother's legacy, not just by serving her recipes, but by offering a lifeline to every woman who desperately needs a second chance. The sun finally broke fully over the horizon, painting the New England sky in explosive shades of gold and pink. I felt something I hadn't felt in over a year. True, unshakable peace. Not the total absence of pain, but the overwhelming presence of divine purpose. I tucked the heavy leather recipe book safely under my arm and walked back up the beach toward my car. I was ready to drive back to Boston. I was ready to meet Eleanor on Monday morning. I was ready to live. And to you, the person listening to this story right now, please remember this. God gave me 3 distinct opportunities to uncover the absolute truth before October 28. The hidden toxicology report, the buried digital camera footage, and Mia's arrogant text message. And every single time, I actively chose to move with calculated, ice-cold intelligence instead of blind, explosive rage. When betrayal comes from inside your own house, when the people sharing your blood and your bed become the ones actively plotting your demise, remember that God does not just give you the sheer strength to survive the blast. He also gives you the razor-sharp clarity to navigate the fallout. I turned a horrific family betrayal into federal justice. Not just because I wanted to watch Jack and Marcus burn in court, but because I needed to build a wall to protect any woman who might come after me. Do not be the woman I was in those first few months. Do not be blind to the subtle, shifting signs. Do not be overly trusting. Do not ever believe that your unconditional love will magically cure a narcissist's greed. True, lethal betrayal never announces itself with a warning siren. It whispers to you over a cup of morning coffee. It hides behind a forged legal signature. It wears the perfect, loving smile of a man who calls you sweetheart while actively coordinating your funeral. If you feel in your gut that something is fundamentally wrong in your home, trust that instinct with your life. God speaks to us through our intuition. The exact second you ignore that quiet internal alarm is the second you hand your enemy the knife. My advice to you? Protect your personal finances, document absolutely everything. And never, ever allow your love for another human being to make you so vulnerable that you lose the ability to protect yourself. Revenge might feel satisfying when you imagine it in your head. But true, lasting justice, the kind of justice that lets you sleep peacefully at night, is only achieved when you drag their secrets out into the blinding light of a courtroom. And most importantly, when betrayal burns your entire world to the ground, remember that rebuilding doesn't mean forgetting the trauma. It means weaponizing that pain and transforming it into a relentless purpose. Today, Rose's Kitchen feeds a lot more than just empty stomachs. It feeds hope. And I truly believe that was exactly what God had planned for me from the very beginning. If this story moved you, please leave a comment down below telling me your thoughts on betrayal and how you have overcome the darkest moments in your own life. Subscribe to the channel for more real, intense stories of resilience, survival, and ultimate redemption. And please, share this video with someone who desperately needs to hear that it is absolutely possible to walk through hell and come out the other side holding the crown. Thank you, truly, for staying with me until the very end. Your time and your attention mean the world to me. And one final clarification, some elements of this story have been dramatized for educational and narrative purposes. If you prefer a different style of storytelling, please feel free to explore the other videos on this channel. Take care of yourself. Stay fiercely strong. And always remember, you are never, ever as alone as your betrayers want you to believe.